in true tea time fashion, there's no starting soon screen, so I can't be late on that. So no one can complain about that. There's something, right? That's.
Did you unhost, by the way?
A little bit of improvement. No, it will do that automatically. It will do it automatically. See, look, people are going to appear right now. It's not a teapot late situation. It actually is, but as Nike pointed out, it isn't because we're not supposed to be live for another 20 minutes, sort of, because of the time change, right? So actually, if you think about it, we're 20 minutes early, except we actually aren't, and I can't use that excuse. But still.
No, you can't use that excuse.
Yeah,
Nike and I were here ready to go.
That's true. They actually were, though. That's not even a joke.
Just for some clarification, Teapot goes an hour ago. Tea time starts in 20 minutes. Nike's like, oh, I was going to have a nap. You know, I was thinking to myself, oh, damn, you know, now I got to finish eating my food quickly. And Teapot just fucks off for an hour.
Yeah. Well, look, you know? I needed to eat as well. I needed to fully prepare myself because, you know, for the abuse that I'm going to receive in the comment section of this video, right? Like, that's what I really needed to mentally prepare for. Look at that. Look at that sub there as well. The tier 1 sub. Wow. Incredible. Yeah. You know, he just roasts me. It's like that, you know, it's both sides of the hand, right? Like, it's, you know, like a little bit of a pet there, and like a smack as well. Like, you know, late slacker idiot, and he gives me his money as well. Unbelievable. Okay, unbelievable. Anyway, welcome everyone to Tea Time. You know, like the only thing that was able to bring Tea Time back was me debating with YouTube comments about dragon response missions. So, look, if you guys ever find yourselves missing Tea Time, you all know what to do. Disagree with me something over a text format in a YouTube comment section, and I'll bring an entire podcast back just so I can get my point across better. But we've got a few things to talk about today, and, you know, I think this is going to be a fantastic show. I have some rewards enthusiasts with me, and that's going to be a bit of an overarching topic of the entire podcast here. But, you know, like the thing that sparked this was dragon response missions. But before we get into that, you know, welcome to the show. Welcome to Tea Time, Nike and Angeels. You know, I hope you're ready for some hot debate content here when it comes to rewards and dragon response missions.
Well, I actually came here for hot ArenaNet flame content, not debate content.
Oh, wow.
Like, I know I was chatting to Nike earlier, and, you know, he was under the same assumption. You know, I thought we were just, you invited us here to flame ArenaNet.
And it's a really bad sign that the three of us are the three most positive people in the community. So that's your barometer for this.
Yeah, you know, I see this very regularly. I see Nike on Twitter, like fending off people complaining about the game, telling people to stop complaining, like it's complaining about like your ex-girlfriend or something, right? After, you know, like after it's already gone down, right? He's batting them off. He's defending ArenaNet everywhere. Yeah. You know, it's
the Doomer community has united against me, which is a weird thing to say because, like, I was one of the original Doomers.
That's true. That's true.
Oh man. But anyway, let's just get right into it. Right, it's time to launch right into it. You know, like that's done now. The preamble is over. Right, let's talk about dragon response missions. Now, this is probably one of, I want to say, DRMs are some of the most controversial content ArenaNet has ever added to the game. Do you guys think that would be a fair statement to make about dragon response missions?
No.
No.
Yeah. And I'll explain why. Okay, because I think there's a slight issue with what you just said. Okay, use the word content.
Oh no. The debate is beginning. The debate is beginning. There we go.
I would also say they're non-controversial relative to raids. Like when raids first came out, like you could just go back on the forums archives, on the official forums, and see like the semi-literate posts being like, "Me quit WoW for raid. Me no want raid in game. Me play." Like, okay.
Those were some good threads.
Yeah. Like, there was hundreds of them, and it was like a full-time job Gale Gray had merging the different threads into one mega thread that you couldn't follow.
Nice. And couldn't reply to. I mean, particularly if it was about Ascended Armor. Yeah, it's locked. Yep. Lock it all down there as well.
But, positive viewpoints only.
All right, okay, let's dial it back a little bit then.
We've started off strong.
We've already got two in, but that's, you know, got two kind of nailed down there, right? Let's continue. But I mean, but let's dial it back a bit then. So they are pretty controversial though, right? I think when Dragon Response first came up, particularly the first round, there was a pretty negative backlash towards what they actually were. And the first ones, I would say, was very, very well deserved. They were basically do a trash event for like 10 minutes, that was incredibly repetitive. It was the same thing in every single one, basically. And then you fight a boss, then you do like some wave defense events or just like clear more trash. Then finally you kill a boss that has one ability right after it, right? That was not good.
1 billion HP.
Yeah, a lot of HP and not a lot of really anything going on there as well. And then boom, but there you go. However, and I really think that first impressions matter. And look, I do suspect that one of the reasons why the player base isn't perhaps more appreciative of the recent Dragon response missions is because they're kind of like their preconceived notions are soured by their earlier experiences. Because I would think
the content type is tainted. Like,
yeah,
let's be real.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's tainted because, like, I mean, the first impression was actually who's got the clip? Who's got the quote from Mela? Right? I mean, Mela, I think, is on the record as saying this is one of the biggest piece of shit patches this game has ever had, and then it was like an okay hand Pepe there underneath that as well, like really rubbing it in there, like guaranteeing that everyone understands exactly what he's getting at. So it definitely did. Yeah. It was tainted right off the bat. But right now, here is where my hot take is going to activate. Right here we go. From a gameplay, like reward perspective, we can talk about that later because this is the rewards debate, and that's why I've got the lads here as well. Because honestly, rewards, I don't even understand it, right? I just give away all my gold, right? You know, like I just try not to look at it, right? The only reward I know is ecto gambling, my friends. That's rewarding gameplay to me. But anyway, right? Like the new Dragon response missions, from a gameplay perspective, are actually very good content. Boom, there it is. It's scalable, right? They can scale this up. They can add new bosses. They can make it quickly. It's reusing story assets, right? It rewards you for doing it quickly. They're improving the variety of the pre-events. The bosses are actually good. I mean, for example, the particular ones that really stand out are Blood-Tide Coast, Snowden Drifts, and Fireheart Rise. Those three bosses in particular are honestly comparable to Fractal bosses. They are harder than most Fractal bosses, I would say, more engaging than most Fractal bosses, particularly on CM. I think the CM mechanics, although I will not let them get away with them being a little bit lazy, because they do just, oh yeah, every NPC has boons now, right? I think that's actually a subtly good effect, because it means, oh, Spellbreaker now has some kind of use here. Oh, Necromancer can corrupt those boons and make it way easier. I think that's pretty interesting. You know, Mesmer can rip boons like Nullfield or something. I think that's actually quite interesting. Like, so you rip the boons, then you can CC, and then you can cleave them down. They do way less damage, right? They take more damage, and they don't have a million stacks of stability and are basically invulnerable. I think there's some actual interesting and good design features in the way that they are actually designed. Yes, there are issues. Yes, they lack variety. They absolutely do. Dragon response missions, yeah. You know, the pre-event, it's, you know, go and, like, press F on 15 Quaggons, right? That can be annoying, but they are working on that, and I think they'll continue to iterate. And this is the kind of the thing. Like, this is something that I see in Dragon response missions that I think all of us have ranted against ArenaNet for a very, very long time. They are actually taking this idea, they're taking this concept, and they are making it better. They aren't just saying, oh, by the way, that's dead now, let's try a different game mode. They're actually going round and round and round. They're looking at the feedback, they're listening to it, and they're actually improving it. So there you go. That's part one of the DRM rant. Look, go on. Try and debate me. Try and annihilate that debate, kids.
The funny... Okay, so I think that... Okay. I think the concept of DRMs is actually okay, because what it is trying to do is introduce a living story as a dungeon format. Okay? And that's not like the traditional Guild Wars 2 dungeon format. It's a very traditional linear instance progression kind of thing. The issue is that it has none of the good aspects of what dungeons and MMOs have yet. You know, the bosses are slowly moving in that direction, but the design themselves is very uninspired and fairly uninteresting. I mean, you refer to the I think it's the Snowden Drifts one. Yeah, sure, it hits hard. Sure, you have to CC it. But are there actually any interesting mechanics? No, because it's just concentric boss design. You have a phase, then you have a mid phase, then you have another phase that is exactly the same, and then you have the same shit again. And it's like, it's just repetitive. There's no engaging gameplay to that, in my opinion. And on top of that, they drag out, and you cannot speed up your progression. And then we'll cover rewards as well. But the fact that they just have 0 rewards pretty much throughout the actual gameplay, and then at the end there's no exciting loot, is actually the really big problem here. Basically, imagine you have like the shell of what an MMO dungeon is, and that's what a DRM is. There's nothing beyond that.
Wow, that's pretty brutal stuff. And I think I can kind of get in line with that. I think, yeah, there are problems. And I think particularly with the phases, this is something that's kind of blighted a lot of the DRM bosses in particular. Especially if you have a lot of damage.
It's
right?
not just the DRM bosses. It's every single boss in Guild Wars 2 is exactly the same in that format.
Well,
and it's very boring.
Well, I mean, that's because they just go too fast, right? Particularly if you have high DPS. And well, I mean, I think that's an entirely different thing there as well. Like with in a way, like a lack of difficulty options, I think kind of causes that, because like, if we only have one difficulty option, you can't really like ramp it up too hard because people already struggle with it, right? Like there are already people who are kind of like hard stuck in tier 1 or 2 fractals, like can't break out of that. So they imagine if you got to get them to do a boss of multiple phases. But no, I think that's a very fair criticism of Dragon Response missions, is that some of the boss encounters, they just kind of, they could do with a little bit extra, because it's like, something happens and the boss's attacks don't change, right? Now, as the fight goes on, it doesn't really necessarily actually change that much. This is the thing.
You mentioned difficulty, okay? But I don't think Dragon Response missions have to be any more difficult. They just have to focus on being fun. Like it's a crazy concept, but there's a lot of like very easy content in other games. I mean, like in my downtime of the past month or so, I've been playing a lot of other games, and there's a lot of easy content out there that is just fun. Like it doesn't necessarily have difficulty to it, but it's fun to do because it's varied and the mechanics are interesting, and you get good rewards at the end of it. DRMs can 100% be that, but they have to put more effort into it. And that's one of the things that really shows, is the fact that DRMs are like, they're just thrown together by like a small team. And I mean, in terms of like content that's thrown together by a small team, yeah, it's not bad. It's not the worst thing ever. But, when it's the primary content you're putting out at the time, like it's completely unacceptable. Like honestly, like it's a bit embarrassing.
I think it's better than their previous story content. Maybe not in terms of production value. Like obviously there's like no real cutscenes. There's no like, the voice acting isn't as thorough. Like the story it's trying to tell is more thorough, is like simpler. But I've never replayed any story like a second time through. Like I've never had reason to, never wanted to. Maybe to like get an achievement that I needed for like Dragon Skyscale or whatever, I did it again. But like I just went in for that achievement and then left. So it's successful in the sense that they created story content that I've done multiple times. So that is like so if you look at it as like, hey, these are our replacement for dungeons, well, then it's a total fucking failure. Like they're garbage. But if you go, this is our replacement for story content, then okay, now we have the start of something that may be successful when they add more production value and iterate a few times.
I would actually agree with that. I think that's a really good take.
And this essentially is the core of my take. Now, I think the issue is when I was on stream, I was a bit keyed up, so I made it in maybe a slightly provocative way. But yeah, what I see here is I see good design, right? I see good design content. One of the things and look, you can go back and watch like the entire catalog of TeaTime. We just ran like, guys, stop making story content. You play it once and it's done. This is not MMO content. True. This is not a single player game. And Dragon Response missions, they are kind of changing that, right? It's going to be that the story content is actually very replayable and could potentially become not necessarily part of your permanent core gameplay loop, but certainly part of your gameplay loop for a much longer period of time. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I've done the story episode and now I'm done, right? That's it. So, I can play these Dragon Response missions for a while. And that's where the good design comes in. They are inherently repeatable. We were talking, you guys were talking about like how the production isn't there yet. And I completely agree with you. I actually really want to talk about like the way the story is delivered actually, because a lot of people seem to not like it. I actually did. But on the production, this is the whole thing, right? Yes, right now, ArenaNet is very likely working almost entirely on the expansion. So these DRMs are basically being made by like a skeleton crew. Like, there's a few people working on them, like slapping them together and just like, boom, ship it, get in there, right? Away you go, right? That's basically what it is. Because they're the exact same instances that you see in the story, which is why you have some incredibly fun instancing issues around the story system, which is, it's delightful to work with. It really is. But obviously it's not going to be perfect. And by ArenaNet's normal level of kind of polish and actual production value, Dragon response missions aren't very good at all, right? Like, in fact, I would say that the Icebrood Saga Champions, I mean, like, it shocked a lot of people. Like, wait, is this it? Is this what we're getting from now on? But I think that's not really the point. Like, the point is that it marks a bit of a different approach from ArenaNet when it comes to developing content, not only in the iteration aspect, but also in the replayability aspect, when it regards to story content. So I think that's a really good thing. But on the story, I'd be really curious what you guys thought of this. I actually really like the kind of like in the moment story viewing that you get in a Dragon response mission. Like, there was this moment at the end of the Fireheart Rise one where Braham, like, he's out of nowhere. He's like leaps in and just like, bam, holy shit, it's Braham, champion of Primordus, right? He just leaps in. And that was like a really, it was so weird. It was like one of those moments in a game where like, whoa, I actually felt very immersed in the game at that moment. Because if something like that happened in real life, it wouldn't be like, there's something in the water, oh, it's Braham, right? You wouldn't really have that moment, right? It would just happen. And that's what it felt like. It felt like, holy shit, the story is actually unfolding before my eyes. I'm not here with my arms by my side in a cutscene, like, right? No, I'm actually playing the game, and the game is unfolding around me. Now, are there issues with the storytelling? Yes. Are NPCs yelling at you while you're fighting off like 10 destroyers? Yes. That's obviously a big problem, right? There are issues with it. But I think that this approach is certainly more to my taste, actually, when it comes to Dragon response missions. I really like the in-the-moment, show, not tell, don't play me a cutscene, show me actual stuff happening, right? Like, what's actually going on. I much prefer that.
Yeah, it probably puts you in the minority of gamers, though, because, like, games have been steadily moving in the 7-hour cutscene direction for single-player games for a very long time.
I would actually agree with you there, Teapot. I think that having more gameplay as part of the story is really important. It's certainly something that I've criticized ArenaNet for a lot in the past. Certainly what I would like to actually see more is more actual gameplay. And less of the kind of waiting around for stuff to happen. I think a lot of games have successfully been able to kind of do the show, don't tell. And I think that certainly there should be more showing what's going on rather than exposition through characters and stuff. Saying, particularly Timey, who, is an awful character and would definitely be better off being purged from existence. But yeah, a lot of that being removed and whatever, and just like making it more about your gameplay and the fun would go a long way to kind of increasing the fun aspect of kind of the story, certainly, and replayability. Because I think a lot of criticism that I've seen, and personally that I have, is that it is just waiting around for stuff to happen. Particularly the Snowden Drifts one, you spend like 5 minutes walking towards the boss. Like, why can't I go fight, like, if there's like 50 monsters between here and between the start and the boss, let me just go fight those 50 monsters on my own time. And have the NPCs like shout a couple of things, or show that people are getting frozen to death or whatever along the way, and then let me go fight the boss. Don't make me wait. Don't time game me.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, people are kind of divided about the original dungeons on whether they were good or not, but I think the proof is that, like, they were sufficient content to keep people engaged with the game for years, so they couldn't be. They had some redeeming value, and I think the thing that made Guild Wars 2 Dungeons different from other MMOs and what made them unique was that you could use movement to speed up the dungeon, or it's like you could approach events in a non-linear way to get things to be more efficient, whereas the DRMs are just totally on rails. Like there's just no way to be better than what they have scripted, and that really and there's replaying it, the second experience is just worse. When you played a raw, like path 1, 2, 3, or 4, the second time you did it was probably better than the first time, and then the third time was even better than that. Like you were getting better, you were learning the content, you were learning to be more efficient. With DRMs, it's worse every time because it never gets better and it never changes. And I think, and so there's definitely, but again, like I still think that is like unfair to even compare them to dungeons. It's basically like repeatable story, and if that's the bar, then they're successful. But
I don't know if it is unfair to compare them though, because I think that what ArenaNet does is they've not come forward and said, oh yeah, this is our new direction for story. They've said this is a piece of content. You know, this is a solid piece of instance content that we want you to play.
Yeah, I suspect it's because they couldn't do strikes and story. So they were like, let's split the difference. We only have the resources to do one or the other, and if we came out with a story patch that was literally just a strike, people would, like the story people would lose their shit.
They'd be big mad if that was to happen.
This is the crazy thing though. Imagine if in Cantha, okay, each of the stories, the entire story was just DRMs, okay? And I know that sounds, to a lot of people in chat, they'll be like, yo, what the fuck? That sounds
If they were good, sure.
Yeah, but gameplay-wise, if they were solid dungeon-style instances where, you know, I'm not slowed down. I actually, there was another point that I just want to briefly touch on, but it like adds to what I was saying. Okay, with your example of a Ra, you can skip the pointless dialogue if you want to. I say pointless, like if you want to skip the story, you can skip it. But at no point have I ever been completely out of the loop as to what was going on there. You know, sure, the law, like you may skip like a lot of the lore or like whatever, but like you still, you know, the little objectives in the top right say, oh, you need to go like get the chicken and test it or whatever. And I think that stuff like that is that you're still able to give an element of story without actually having to have this massive exposition about what's going on all the time. And I would like to see a return to that.
Like, so I think the main issue is that right now DRMs are like crappy press F mini games for a few minutes at the start, which are all the same in every single one of them.
Yeah.
And then it's an escort event where you're like escorting NPCs, killing some trash mobs that are worthless, and then fighting a boss. If they could tweak the format so that the pre-events were different and like had total, like one pre-event might be a fight, like a mini boss. One pre-event might be the press F stuff. The next pre-event might be like a puzzle that your team has to solve. Like just change it up and then make the escort event. Like maybe not everything's an escort event. Like maybe it's like, I don't know, then you have a puzzle instead of an escort event. Like do something to change up the formula then and higher production values. I think it's totally a good idea for replacing the story. Like I would much rather Cantha expansion launch with really well iterated upon DRMs as the story than going back to what they did before, which I would not consider successful. Like I've only played through POF once, and I did it the first day, and there's no reason or interest in ever doing it again. So that's, if they do that in End of Dragons, then they haven't learned anything.
There you go. That's my whole point, is that this is good from a gameplay design perspective. There's one thing I do want to say though, because I completely understand your criticism with the whole like they are on rails, because well they are on rails, but you can speed them up, to be fair, right? I'm not disagreeing with this criticism. I think it's a fair criticism, but you can actually speed them up a lot, right? Like, you know, do you not remember the Snowden Drift? Dude, do you know how much people complained that they couldn't beat the timer on Snowden Drift? I think that's kind of interesting, right?
I'm gonna be real with you, Teapot. Okay, like yeah, sure, you can technically speed it up. I can sit there spamming super speed. You know, you can do that.
Well, you can kill the mobs faster. You can do the pre-events better, right? You can position faster, right?
There's nothing that lets me just go, you know what? I don't have to sit here and wait for these NPCs. like the NPCs should like wait, like just keep up with me. I don't want to like sit there and listen to some dialogue if I've already played through the instance before.
Yeah, and that is where like the weirdness happens, right? With the hybridization with the story, because it's like it's not just like a modified version, right, of the story. It literally is the story, and I think that's where things get a little bit weird. I imagine, and look, guys, in the expansion, by the way, just to be very, very clear, chat. There will not be any dragon response missions in the expansion, right? Like this is an Ice Brood Saga mechanic.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think they're gonna use this format.
I hope they do. I hope they improve upon it, but I hope they do.
They're gonna call it something else. It will just be the story,
okay.
right?
It will
not be the same thing.
A technicality. I think
it's a technicality.
Are they gonna also like say that there's no dungeons or strike missions or whatever because hey, you're getting like 20 DRMs? Like, is that like going to be their strategy?
I mean, look, it will be a different format, and I think that they won't really resemble like dragon response exactly. You'll see the design kind of like pour through, but you won't really see the way they're laid out. I think they will actually significantly change the way they operate. If they're going to do anything like dragon response missions as the main story, right, it won't be called dragon response missions, and it will be differently designed there as well. And
I
actually,
think, though.
Yep.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, like, someone's saying, oh yeah, that dungeons tell the story a lot more elegantly. See, this is something that does actually annoy me a lot, because I've done all the dungeons, and to be honest, I walked past all the story completely. I didn't know any of it, right? Like, I just like destroyed everything immediately. Like, you're not paying attention. I actually don't think that dungeons in Guild Wars 2 tell the story particularly well of the game.
Dungeons in Guild Wars 2 have atmosphere.
Well, that's what I mean. It's very ambient.
Tells the story like COE, you're in like a mad scientist lair where like the experiments have gotten loose and are killing everything. Like you don't need cutscenes to tell you that. They have them, but everyone skips them. But like you can just tell from the environment what's going on. Same thing with like Sorrow's Embrace. You know that it's the mole guys revolting against like each other and against the destroyers and stuff. So like there's just like you can just tell from the atmosphere, like it's very obvious what's going on in Twilight Arbor just from moving through it.
Yeah, I would just say that's down to the nature of the story, not necessarily the actual storytelling though, no? I would say that those stories are probably a little bit more interesting than, oh, dragon minions are here, angry, kill, no? Like, and I would say that the dungeon stories, they feel better because they're just more interesting.
They're smaller, aspects of the lore, self-contained, and more personal.
Yeah, exactly.
The exact opposite of like the Elder Dragon arc that we've been on.
But it doesn't have to be. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be. Like if each objective for like a part of the story is broken down into a specific DRM, you skip out all the pointless waffle between. You say, oh, here's an objective. And then you go, you mix up like the gameplay itself. You could have, you could even split it up into like, there are 3 sections, and each of the 3 sections has 3 different possibilities, whether that's an escort, a mini boss, or whatever. And then the end boss, like at the end, you always have a big boss. Kind of do that, repeat it for every single kind of part of the story, and it would be a hell of a lot better already. And then you include some unique rewards for each part. Boom, problem solved. It solves the story problem, but it also solves the kind of what we're talking about here, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and I think ArenaNet is aware of this, and I really want to underline this seriously. I don't think people really. I mean, look, me, Angeels, and Nike, we're serious old boys, right? Now we've been along for a while. We've been here for a while. And there is one thing that we have always been tearing our hair out, and it's that ArenaNet typically looks at the feedback and just either does nothing or seems to actually throw it in the garbage, right? They just like put it right in the shredder, right? There it goes, like it's gone. But what I really want to talk about this, like ArenaNet actually took this idea and they made it better. Like every single time they made it better, right? And how they did, well, the first time the bosses sucked, so they made the bosses way more interesting the second time around. People were like, oh, the pre-event takes too long. Then they made the pre-events really short in the third round there as well, so that goes way quicker now. They're actually making it better.
I might disagree. they are slightly better, but like I did them the one time when they were brand new, each chapter as they came out. But then I started doing them like over the last couple of weeks for dailies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not entirely clear when you play them as dailies, like which one's the new one and which one's the old one. They seem all basically the same. Like some of them have slightly more interesting bosses, but it's not like, oh, obviously this one's one of the good ones because it's fun and the other ones are not fun. They are like iterated on, but it's like baby step iteration instead of.
And what I would say is that yes, they're listening to feedback, and yes, they're iterating. But I think they're iterating down a kind of like a bit of a foolish route rather than what the content could be. Which is kind of what we've been talking about, like the direction where it'd be really good to have more dungeon-like story instances that are this really replayable, really fun gameplay. Not necessarily the most challenging gameplay, admittedly, but stuff that you can and say, you know what, that would be fun to do, you know, if it's a daily. So it's a bit. I do feel they're kind of straying off what would be the optimal.
I'm not entirely sure I agree. Oh, yeah, I think you're not wrong there, Angels, and that's because, you know, and I think in a way that point, I don't want to say that point is exactly a red herring, but I think in a way that point is just the nature of the environment ArenaNet's in, right? Like they aren't going to be able to do it perfect because it's XPack time, right? You know, like this is kind of like, it's a bit like Freezy, the interns are on DRMs, you know what I mean? Like, so that it's not going to be optimal. It's more like the way I see DRMs is more like they're probing design options, if that makes any sense, right? Like, oh, is this the kind of direction we'd like to go in? Is that the type of content that the players want? Rather than this is literally going to be our optimal and eternal form of content, right? I've had quite the opposite. I think that DRMs are very much below what ArenaNet likes to put out in terms of production. I mean, look, Guild Wars is a very cinematic game. I think open world maps, I want to talk about open world maps here as well, actually, because I'm getting a little bit triggered reading the chat, okay? I'm starting to get activated, guys, okay? Look, you're doing it again. I'm starting to get mad. Because I want to talk about open world maps on this. But yeah, just to very briefly kind of address what Nike said, I do think they get significantly better. I think there's a big difference between, like,
not significantly.
Oh, there's a big difference between Ryland and
I couldn't tell.
Wow.
I could not tell.
Oh,
like I did the Fireheart Rise, and then I did the what's the really bad one? Brisbane Wildlands.
Yeah, sure. That one is a bit scuffed.
And like it was sort of obvious that the Fireheart Rise was like newer than that, but like the only thing that was better was the boss. Like everything before the boss, there was no improvement there. It was the same thing.
I mean, the Fireheart Rise one, there is a pretty long defense event on Fireheart Rise, which is maybe a little bit overkill. So I think they definitely do make some mistakes. But I'm mostly talking about boss encounter mostly here. Like the pre-event is always going to be a little bit meh because they just don't really have that much to work with.
It's weird they have to iterate on that, being they know how to design good bosses. Like
yeah, but I mean,
they've been doing it for years.
Do they?
I think they were
Cameron and Ben can make good bosses. They could do it.
I think they were just worried about overloading players because they can't really do difficulty settings in terms of mechanics, but actually they can. And that's another thing, actually, by the way. They have, look, ArenaNet has actually done the unthinkable. They have come up with the design that MMOs from literally 12 years ago figured out, okay? That difficulty settings are a good idea because the bosses have like a special CM mechanic. Right, dude, that was so cool. I wish they'd unnerfed, by the way, the Ebonhawk one. That was so good, right? The Fields of Ruin one, where it like literally one-shot you, right? If you got hit by the AoE, that was actually a great mechanic in my opinion. But unfortunately, it got nerfed to just 20% of your health a second instead of 200% of your health a second. But hey, that's how it goes, I guess. You know, that was a fun mechanic right there. Shame about the massive, like, horrible visual tell, but still, like, I think this is like another really great piece of design. Like, the bosses have a proper CM. But no, I don't know. Okay, I mean, I guess I'll just say, I just want to put it on the record that I am a white knight for the new DRMs, okay? I respect Nike's opinion, though. Like, if that's the case, then I could definitely concede that maybe I'm just, like, getting too hyped up here. But seriously, I think stuff like Fireheart Rise, like the Tribunes and Ritlock and Bloodtide Coast are a massive step up. I wouldn't say they're like a minor step up. I think they're a huge step up from the earlier rounds, like particularly the first ones. The first round of DRMs, it was like, oh, you fight a giant crab that leaps onto a bridge when it's not really supposed to do that, and it phases every 20%. Oh, you fight a thing that has fire tornadoes, and It attacks sometimes, I guess, right?
You are such a white knight, Teapot. You are such a white knight.
Oh, dude.
Man, I'm gonna be honest, all right? I haven't played the new DRMs. I haven't played any
Wow.
of the new
Oh,
story
wow.
content. Okay, but I did watch your stream. Okay,
Ooh.
and I'm with Nike on this one. Okay, I
Really?
did not see anything. I did not see anything new or anything that excited me to want to log in and play it.
Huh.
I was just like, nah. And went and did other stuff. Like it just was not exciting to me at all. Maybe that's because I'm a little bit burnt out, but for sure it didn't get me excited. I didn't see enough iteration or improvement.
Wow.
And maybe the issue is the actual boss design and encounter design for me. I just think it's very boring, very formulaic, and there's a lot of it is just is focused on. I don't know. I feel that every boss in this game is just an HP sponge, and that's because the mechanics themselves are not that punishing, and that's not due to the amount of damage they do. It's just that they're irrelevant. They don't design relevant mechanics or interesting and to engage with mechanics, even on like the raid level, I think. But that's a discussion for another day. That's for sure.
I think this is like a really big veteran's perspective, in my opinion. I think the issue with Guild Wars 2 PvE is that once you're good at the game is significantly less of a threat to you than it would be. Like, for example, if you do a Pug Snowden's Drift, you will probably not get all 3 CMs. Unless you specifically look for it.
I mean,
if you go in if you go in like the public Peepo map, right, the Frogmen map, you won't get all the 3 CMs there. Like Snowden Drifts, and this is where I would definitely actually hard disagree. I'm gonna call BS. Let's get the debate going here. No, okay. Snowden Drifts is actually punishing. Snowden Drifts is a punishing kind of just straight.
Okay,
up,
but is
right?
it like okay? But this is the question. Okay, is it punishing because of mechanics, or is it punishing because you can't do enough damage?
It's punishing because of the mechanics.
I don't agree with that.
The mechanics prevent you from doing damage.
I think the mechanics are that's. I just don't. I don't see any difference in that case. I know that maybe that sounds a bit like moving the goalposts, so to speak. But I think that if it comes down to you failing to do damage, it's boring to me. I would rather fail because failed mechanic.
Well, but the boss kills you, so you can't do damage.
No, but this is. I just don't. This sounds really weird, but I just don't agree. Maybe I'm just failing to kind of explain my point here. It's just not. It's not good design. I feel the way they've done it.
Well, I know. I guess I'm just gonna have to be the debate lord here. I really think that a lot of them actually do fuck you. I think another good one is the new Caledon Forest one, but with the giant ice guy. Again, there is a mechanic. If you don't go near it will taunt you. It will freeze you. If you don't go near the fire, you will die. Right? Like you cannot out heal it. Like the mechanic is actually very relevant on that encounter. Right? I guess I just don't. I think I reject this assertion that the mechanics don't matter. I think they actually do matter a lot in a lot of these Dragon responsibilities. It's something they've actually been really tryharding.
Maybe
in
it's
particular.
because if you're a good player, they're completely negligible. Like to kind of just engage with.
Isn't that just like the nature of PvE to an extent though? Like after you understand the mechanic, they will become negligible. Like that is.
They could have made the challenge modes significantly harder. It's not like the normal modes. I mean, you can't. There's no fail state in the normal modes, so why not swing harder on the CMs?
I'm only talking about the CMs. I've never done the normal modes, so. I don't know. Maybe it's the facts that supports are absolutely broken in this game, okay, and the fact that a lot of mechanics are designed so that then DPS with 0 stun breaks and full DPS like builds and loadouts are able to get away with absolutely everything. the dodge mechanic as a whole just like completely eliminates any requirements for the player to kind of react well. I think that's probably where kind of my point of view. There's if a full glass DPS player is able to survive even without a support, like, which, if you're a good player, you can do, to be honest, in a lot of this content, then the mechanics themselves are failing.
No, I disagree. You're not, like, we have dodge buttons. There shouldn't be a single mechanic that you can't outskill. Like, that's the Guild Wars 2 combat system, I think.
But
like especially if you're doing it solo, like, you should be able to outskill the content. It should be designed so that, like, maybe, yeah, if you're playing like a particular class, you might have to bring a stun break, or you might have to bring a condi cleanse. But you, like, the idea that, like, they make a content that, like, you have to have a support for, I don't know. That seems bad. That seems worse than being able to, like, okay, maybe you learn how to dodge, then you're good. Then I think that's way better. At least that's a skill bar.
Maybe that's just my perspective, but, like, I would rather see players having to adapt their gameplay through clever skill usage or through changing skills or whatever, and still having to play well, to be clear, rather than just being able to avoid every single thing and still being able to pull off very good DPS.
The problem is, like, then there's other things that are busted, like defensive gear, like Trailblazer gear.
Oh yeah, of course.
Means that, like, if you just create, like, pulsing damage or unavoidable stuff, that, like, it just all of a sudden, then it's just okay. Then the meta's 5 Trailblazer guys, and you just kill. It's just another way to ignore it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mechanics.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are certainly issues with Guild Wars 2 PvE, but I think that we do have to kind of get grounded here a bit. We're talking about dragon response missions. These are not supposed to be, like, the hardest of the hard, like most impossible content ever.
Yeah, it's story content.
The thing I would really want to underline is that I think they are actually engaging on a gameplay level, right? If you do the Ryland fight, or the the Bloodtide Coast fight, or the Fireheart Rise fight, like, there are mechanics that if you get hit by, they will kill you, right? You will die. You will fail, right? There are relevant things that are happening, like dealing with break bars, right? Like dealing with positioning, dealing with evading attacks. The boss has got, like, combos that will knock you back and then gravedigger you, right? That kind of stuff, right? There are actual combo telegraphed abilities that will, on CM, will straight up one-shot you as well. Like, you could obviously cheese. Like, Guild Wars 2 is a game that you can bring the easy cheese for, right? Like, particularly if you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, like, dude, these CMs are actually kind of hard, right? Like, if you get into the perspective of someone who is relatively new to the game and is maybe just kind of dipping their toe into more hardcore PvE content, I don't know. I think we've got to kind of have some perspective here with what already exists in the game. I would just straight up say that tier 4 fractals are easier than the DRM CMs. Like, Ryland is harder than basically most tier 4 fractal bosses, I would say. I can't think of many bosses that are really that much harder than the run outside, like, the CMs. Obviously, I'm not talking about CMs here, guys, to be clear. Like, fractal CMs. Fractal CMs are harder than DRM CMs. I just want to be very, very clear about that. But, like, tier 4 fractals they're a joke. Look, and seriously, guys, let's talk about this. Okay, people are going to say, no. Guys, name a boss that's actually hard in fractals. That isn't, like, a literal, you kill it in 5 seconds with your burst opener while you've pre-stacked infinite boons, infinite stability, infinite everything with a heal firebrand, right? You've pre-stacked everything. You're running in there and you kill the boss in 5 seconds because it has no health, no mechanics, and just dies instantly. Yeah, the exception, I would say, Siren's Reef would be the only thing that's comparable, but outside of that, maybe Chaos Fractal as well. Chaos Fractal's also got a pretty decent boss in it. But outside of that, it is a complete joke, right? Like, Fractal, oh yeah, Amala. Amala is actually a great boss, by the way. Everyone hated on Amala. Amala, god-tier boss fight in Twilight Oasis. Yes!
I thought that's a hot take.
Like, that is a hard
AoE spam.
Oh,
AoE
Amala's so good!
Yeah. Like, hello? Like, 50 billion AoEs on the floor, like, with no real pattern or anything. Like, hell nah. That's not
dude, look, I was when I saw Deepstone, I was like, holy shit, Deepstone Fractal CM, right? But here's the thing: talk about most of them. Talk stuff like Thormanova Reactor, Underground Facility, right? Uncat, right? Like Aetherblade Fractal. Honestly, yeah, MK Swampland Fractal's probably about the same. But honestly, I think Swamp Fractal's really easy. But you know what? Seriously, it is so easy, guys. It is easy peasy, right? These fractals, and actually. Obviously, fractals are a much higher tier of content than DRMs, so DRMs should be, should be on paper easier, and I think that's okay. And yeah, they're not, I'm not saying DRMs are like mega rock hard. What I'm pointing out is that everyone's like, wow, these are so boring, these are so boring. Guys, the content you're playing by your own standards is boring. And by the way, let's talk about open world. Yeah, open world is very pretty, very like, oh wow, look at all the pretty colors. Look at that giant tank over there. Look at this NPC flying around here, right? Oh wow, this is crazy. But look, guys. DRMs are so much more engaging than open world content because 1, there is a fail state, 2, your performance and your impact matters, and 3, there's actually some kind of like challenge. Like you can actually an open world map is never going to fail, right? It literally cannot do it. Like the only time it's going to fail
only on NA
is if is if the frogs get you and they steal all your boons and one-shot you, okay? Then disband your guild. But seriously, like the open world stuff is much less engaging and far more trivial. And I think a lot of the content that a lot of players do is actually less engaging and more trivial than DRMs, and yet players don't levy the same criticisms at the content they're already playing as they do at DRMs. And that's understandable because it's new and you want to critique the new content, but I would really warn people against this. Seriously, in my opinion, ArenaNet is taking some really good design steps forwards. Yeah, they haven't refined the recipe yet. It's kind of like we're getting a little bit repetitive here, but I think it's worth to kind of drive the message home, right? They've got some good design here. Their idea is solid. They just need to refine it, and I think it's better or as good as in terms of gameplay and interactivity as a lot of the stuff that's already in the game. So I really want to strongly defend against this idea that, oh yeah, it's really boring. They're boring. They're easy, right? Because look, guys, you are farming content every single day that is easier than Dragon Response Mission CMs, and that is, I would say that's pretty factual statement as well. I think I could defend that statement very easily. But yeah, there you go. Boom. I'm a DRM White Knight. There it is.
True. You are. I think it goes back to, what Nike and I said of like, we like the concepts, but they need a lot of work. An awful lot of work. I don't know. I guess I have a really high bar for kind of the content that I would like to see in the game, specifically the difficulty.
Yeah. This is what you just said there, Angeels. Okay. Oh, what a great thing to say. And this is something that I think that we all need to actually kind of take a look at ourselves with. I think this
I'm fully aware that DRMs are not supposed to be that. And it's one thing I want to touch later on with regards to rewards, is that the content itself is not supposed to be this ultra challenging content. It's definitely not supposed to be that. And one thing I would actually say that you will definitely disagree with is that I don't think DRMs should even have 2 difficulty modes. I think they should have the 1 difficulty mode, and you just play through them, and everyone can kind of chill, relax, and play and have this chill, like, progression dungeon sort of experience together. Okay? Let the actual challenging content be in the other forms of content, strikes as that step up, or raids as the actual challenging content, or fractal CMs and stuff like that. Like keep the challenge and the difficulty options for those pieces of content. I think that DRMs are better off just being fun, chill content that you can jump in with a load of friends of varying skill levels and just have a bit of fun. But most important, and I think this is what they really need to improve upon, is just farm some loot. Okay? And that's, I think, kind of maybe a bit of a segue into kind of the rewards discussion, is that they should be about farming loot.
Yeah, I think we can segue there, but very shortly. But the thing I wanted to bring up was that I think that we have this image in our mind of Guild Wars 2 as like this perfect, like amazing game. And I think that we need to kind of be a bit more grounded in like where we are. Like Guild Wars 2 it's not at the top, right? Like Guild Wars 2 is like climbing itself out of a hole right now, you know? Like it was not so it was not so long ago that, you know, we were playing, you know, like, oh, who's getting fired this month, and oh, who's the game director this month, you know what I mean? Right? Like
we the game director this month.
Well, like I mean, there's a question, right? I don't think we even have one, right? But yeah, like that's the, you know, that's the kind of the big thing with this. I think that, yeah, sure, like DRMs are not the most like godlike content in the universe, but I think they're better than what we have, and that's what I'm looking at here. I'm not looking at, oh wow, Dragon Responsibilities are peak gaming, I can't wait to play these for the rest of Guild Wars 2. No, it's that in my opinion is the first step. We are improving, we are climbing the ladder of content, right? Like that is what my entire point has always been about. And I think it's very, obviously, you know, we really like the game. So, as you say, Andrew, you have very high standards for the content in Guild Wars 2. As you should, by the way. That is a good thing to have those as a hold ArenaNet to it.
And I would say, like, to add to that, and because there are a lot of people who have, like, been criticizing me in chat and everything, my standards for, like, the difficulty of content far exceed anything that is in-game right now. Okay, this is why I don't play PvE, because I don't find any of it challenging or fun. Like that's my perspective on all of it. I want it to go way further, to the point that I am pushed as a player, because I'm not right now. But that's another discussion entirely.
Well, there you go then. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're just better than what we have right now in the game. It's going forwards, and you know the game is not in its like peak state. Has been for a long time. And I do just want to kind of, as a final thing before we start talking about rewards, and that's when like the real spicy stuff kicks off. But I think this is very, very important to talk about here. Look, it's not like any of the previous releases like got a lot of positive feedback. Do you guys remember Corner? You guys remember like a lot of the maps in Icebrood Saga like just being, you know, played through at once? You guys remember like the first half of Bureau Marches, right? Yeah, like dude, like this is not good content. Like all the living story, it has been worse than this. Like because you play it through once and then it's over. Like there's a map with nothing on it sometimes, maybe like a very, very on-rails scripted event, right? Like that is the nature of what Guild Wars 2 has been for a very, very long time. And yeah, like people complained about that, but I don't know, like have people forgotten like how trash that was? It was like, oh, we want a map again. Do you guys not remember like how much you complained about the map? You know,
this is another point though. Like a new map is obviously really good and really important because it adds that really fun open world content. Sorry for the revving, by the way. But at the same time, I think like the story being in these DRM instances is way better. Like absolutely better, and there should be that mix. You should have new maps which aren't based on story, and then have new DRMs.
And I think there will, but incidentally, I think I suspect there will be a new map for the final episode, like with with some kind of meta event on it as well. But hey, stay tuned for that, guys. You know, nearly in April. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, obviously my statement was a bit extreme there. Like, I do prefer this to new maps because new maps to me, like, they just look pretty and you know, they don't really do anything outside of that. But no, I think I think we'll need to remember like how much they hated like literally everything. I mean, like, oh, they like Patho's like, oh yeah, new map better than did. Like Patho is like the guy who on patch day is in chat putting like 50 furnace takens, right? Like this is what I'm talking about. And I mean, dude,
which new map recently was like so good?
Yeah.
Like what?
Fuck yeah, you like Drizzle? You guys like Drizzlewood Coast? Yeah, you guys like that shit, right? Are you a big fan of that? But this kind of thing drives me mad.
Bora Marshes was terrible. Right? Like the Grothmar one that came out in the prequel was probably the best. That was a decent map, but again, like that map had issues in terms of like no replayability to it. But
yeah, my really big issue here is that watching the Guild Wars 2 community over years has made me realize why Blizzard would say you think you do, but you don't about Classic WoW. Because I honestly think that the Guild Wars 2 community honestly doesn't know what it wants, right? I was like, oh, we want this. Because, look, guys, here's my Inferno take. You know, like we're an hour in, so now I'm going to unleash the Inferno take. Are you guys ready for my Inferno take? Ooh, yeah. Right. Dragon response missions are exactly what you asked for, chat, and Guild Wars 2 community. Almost
like monkey paw,
to the
maybe.
letter,
Like,
right? To the letter of what you wanted.
No.
Yes! Here we go. Here it is. Here we go. I'm just going to lay it down right now.
No.
They are totally repeatable, totally grindable, reused asset, story content, releasing way faster than normal, every 2 months, every like 3 to 4 months there as well, right? You've got the story integrated there. It's replayable. It's got challenge in it. It's got bosses and mechanics, and you actually have decent gold per hour for farming them infinitely there as well. That is literally what the community was asking for, right? And ArenaNet gave it to you, and you didn't want it. There it is.
In this current iteration, it's not what people wanted.
How so?
Because like what it comes down to is the fun elements. And I know fun is subjective, but the fun elements is, I think, a fairly objective perspective. The beginning of the Dragon response missions, how much they drag out, is ridiculous. Okay, you're not progressing. It doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel engaging, okay, as you're doing these, like, weird rally events and shit. Same with the escorts. People want to jump in and have the action. You think of a dungeon, right? You jump in, you're immediately going and killing stuff. You're immediately moving towards that first boss. And what people wanted was the fun elements of the story implemented in a replayable stuff. If you actually look back at the requests for replayable instances, it was stuff like the last instance of Living World Season 4, where people were like, damn, like this would be really cool, like if this was a strike, or if this was a boss instance, or repeatable in any way, shape, or form. And that is better. If they do stuff like that, that is way, way better. So realistically, we should be moving towards that element of it rather than kind of what we have right now, which is what we've been saying this entire talk, by the way.
Sure. Right. And look, there's a lot of people talking in the chat right now. Okay. Yeah. About like, oh, I didn't want that. Well, here's the thing, guys. Right. Look, DRMs take like 10 minutes. 10-minute fight a boss. Waves of trash mobs. Dude, you can actually optimize that. Look, what are you doing in open world? You're literally fighting infinite waves of trash mobs in open world. Guys, this is an MMORPG. You know what you do? You fight mobs and you keep fighting them over and over and over again. That is what MMOs are, guys. Okay?
This is not what ARPGs are. MMOs are totally different.
But this is actually, there's quite a important difference between how DRMs have been doing them and how open world does them. Okay, in open world, you obviously get a lot of loot, but your big reward comes from killing a load of stuff. Okay, in DRMs, you don't actually get this stuff as much. And also, there is another element to this where it's like ridiculously slow.
But it isn't.
Waves of mobs. You are gated.
Like, dude, I don't like this. I actually really don't like this statement. This is such a this statement is insane. Okay, look, with a raid, it's like, okay, you're gonna wait like 5 to 10 minutes of downtime, and then you get to fight the boss. With DRMs, you're just fighting mobs while you're in the downtime. Basically, you get your group immediately, and then you go.
You're misunderstanding completely what I'm saying here. Okay, a dungeon, I go and fight towards the boss. Okay, immediately. I think of like say a Ra Path 4, for instance. I just immediately go, and then I'm within 2 minutes of like fighting a load of trash mobs, I've reached the first boss and I'm fighting. But if I want to speed that up, I can speed that up. With DRMs, I don't get that opportunity because for the first part, I'm waiting for escorts, I'm waiting for like NPCs to talk, I'm waiting for all of this shit to happen, and that's not fun. Okay, I'm time gated as a player.
This is debatable, by the way. Like,
no.
This is debatable.
It's not debatable at all. Okay,
you can speed them up a lot, though. Like, you can speed them up a lot.
You can speed it up. You can speed it up, but that doesn't mean that I can get it down to 0. Okay, if I had like a billion damage and one-shot every mob, then there is a potential for me to get that time down to 0. Okay? But when I'm waiting for escorting NPCs, I can't ever get that time down to 0 because there's a hard cap as to however fast I can ever get that. And it's always going to be slower than me as a player. That is the reality.
I mean, sure, and
Yeah,
that is bad design, but that's irrelevant though. That's kind of irrelevant because
it's not irrelevant. It's not irrelevant.
This is such a non-issue.
This is not irrelevant at all because my enjoyment of the game, of the actual content, is completely destroyed because I'm waiting.
I don't know.
My mind. No. You can't ever disagree with me on this because this is how I feel. Okay.
That's his lived experience. How dare you deny it?
Yeah, exactly, Teapot. What the fuck, dude?
Hashtag cancel.
Wait for it. Guys, this is such bullshit. Like, no. Right, look, dude, who the fuck complains about this in like any other aspect of the game, right? Okay, this is so insane, right? Like, dude, why is it that only DRMs are subject to this? Like, you've got time gates and raids, you've got time gates and fractals,
everywhere.
right?
I complain about it everywhere because they're dog shit everywhere. They are dog shit everywhere.
Like, dude, but I just feel like this is like...
I'm fine with the pre-event existing. It just has to be fun, and they're just not fun.
And I have to be able to
kill 20 Ice Brood. That is so dumb. Like, that is so dumb. Like,
I'm seeing this comment here.
Press F and rescue the villagers. Like,
I don't know. I just feel like this is like, dude. I just feel like we're just so spoiled by Guild Wars 2. Maybe because I'm a boomer and I went to go play classic WoW. This just doesn't bother me. I don't know. It's like I'm just playing my video game, right?
You know what I'm actually spoiled by? I'm spoiled by playing RuneScape for the past month, where literally I can go progress as fast as I fucking want and I'm not held back at all. And I can't fucking stand it when I come back and play Guild Wars 2, and I'm literally just waiting for shit to happen. Because I have to sit there and wait for stuff, and I can't be the most efficient player possible. I hate it. I can't stand it. It's awful design to me. Like, any company that prevents me from sitting there and playing how I want to play, produce the content. Don't slow me down.
I mean, sure. I mean, I don't think I think they should improve it and make it like way, like not be limited in any way by NPCs, I guess, and make it a lot more open-ended. But I don't know. I guess I just don't really care about it that much. Like, I just look at, it's a good boss. I enjoy the boss. Like, this entire Guild Wars 2 has a lot of like wait to have fun moments in it anyway, right?
It's the whole game.
And a lot in general, like MMOs are this way. I don't really see much of a distinction. And in general, I think MMOs are a lot like wait to have fun. I just view trash mobs in general. Like, if I'm doing like a dungeon in WoW, it essentially is, they've put the trash in my way and I have to get rid of it, and then boom, away you go, right? And also, it is worth noting, by the way, guys, that not every DRM is actually NPC gated. Like, a lot of them actually are very execution driven. In particular, the Blood-Tide Coast one is very execution driven, much less so than other ones. There are ones that are escort based. Snowden is the really big escort one, but a lot of them are actually execution. Like Ebonhawk is execution, Calvin Forest is execution, Blood-Tide Coast is execution, Fireheart Rise is execution, with a small escort there as well.
I completely agree with what you're saying here. Okay, not all of them are escort based. Okay, but a lot of the ones that aren't, I guess, what's the one that comes to mind instantly? Like Brisbane, okay? Or something. Like, you gotta, like, the ones where you gotta, like, go and do something. The gameplay itself just isn't, I just don't find that fun. Like, maybe the content just isn't for me. Maybe Guild Wars 2, and in fact, I actually know this, right? Guild Wars 2 is not the game for me, okay? I know that. And it's really sad because none of the content is focused on me as a player who wants to be like ultra efficient, ultra like challenged, and constantly like playing super hardcore. I accept that. But, at the same time, I came here to, give my opinion and stuff. But like, I think that's all of it just fails to be fun for me. The only fun bits are the bosses at the end. you know, where a lot of them feel like HP sponges, but like I wish there were more mechanics.
Sure, I mean, look, I don't disagree that there are issues. I think we all agree on that, but I just think that the bosses are kind of like, in a way, the bulk of the content. Yeah, sure, some of them are a little bit too long. This is definitely the case, but I don't know, I could probably say the same about a lot of other pieces of content in the game. Well, just a lot of MMO content in general. Like, MMOs are delay games. And by the way, I'm not talking about the RP in raids. I'm talking about the fact that when you do a raid, you AFK for a while and do nothing while you wait for your group to fill. Right? This is a reality of gaming. Dude, I used to raid with fucking Randy, right? Between every single goddamn boss, I'm waiting for this motherfucker to swap 17 trinkets from his characters on his dial-up modem, right? Okay? That is a lot more downtime than a dragon response mission. That this is the reality of Guild Wars 2 and online games. When I play PvP, I get a buy in an 80. I've got to wait 30 goddamn minutes, right? Because I don't get to play a fucking game, right? Look, PvP, queue times, you're waiting. Fractals, wait for a group. Wait for people to start like dicking around, getting, I forgot my potions. I forgot, sorry, I've got to do my pre-stack now. Oh, God. Like, this is the nature of gaming, guys, right? There is always going to be these moments. And yes, waiting on NPCs is bullshit, but you don't actually do that in every DRM. Like, a lot of them are heavily execution-based, and the ones that are, I would obviously not defend, right? Like, the escort events are Papega, but even the escort events, you can actually speed them up as well. And I don't, in a way, I don't necessarily think that, like, having something that can't like be completely skipped is even necessarily a bad thing. I kind of like the idea. For example, one of my favorite things that I've ever done with the guild actually is the Dragon Stand speedrun, and that was actually the really big thing we did there was heavily centralized around speeding up the NPCs with super speed. I think that's actually kind of an interesting mechanic. So I'm not even entirely against the whole like NPC thing. I kind of like interacting with the world and interacting with the NPCs can be interesting, although I agree that if you're in like a farming situation, you obviously don't want that. You want to be able to really push the farm as hard and as fast as you can. I would definitely agree with that position, but I just think that like zoning in on this is like what I'm saying is that I don't think this is like the main issue with DRMs. Like, yeah, this is definitely it's definitely an issue, but I think to like minimize them and minimize like how good they are from a gameplay design standpoint, particularly with regards to the bosses and the CMs and the way they work mechanically, is very questionable, because I think they're actually really good in a lot of ways, and just like, oh yeah, trash because of that. I think it's like, like
I don't think the entire thing is ruined by this stuff existing. Yeah. It's just that I personally don't get enjoyment out of it for these reasons. Like, I think that when I maybe it's just me, but like I feel incredibly frustrated when I don't get to play to be fast, to play efficiently, to play well or be challenged. I don't like that, and it kind of detracts from my gameplay experience, I would say, and that's okay if you disagree. Like I think that
debate. I'm calling the snake.
Oh my. Okay.
No, I'm not.
Like, you know, I totally get it, because, you know, DRMs are not supposed to be that. But
yeah, I don't know what they're supposed. I mean, I guess they're supposed to be replayable.
I don't think even
they
knows what they're supposed to be at this point.
Like,
yeah.
I think also one thing that we all have to consider too is that the overwhelming majority of people who are playing DRMs are playing them solo or like as like with one friend. Yeah, almost.
That's fair enough. Like, that's fair enough.
They wouldn't have made it scale to solo if they didn't think that a reasonable percentage of their player base was playing it that way.
I think solo content's good.
I think solo content needs to exist in any MMO, especially Guild Wars 2 desperately needed it for a long time. But the fun might even be less in solo than the DRMs. Like, I've played them in groups and I played them solo, and it's actually more fun in the group. Like, the scaling is great. Like, you can do them all solo and it's fine and it's whatever, but it's slower, and that waiting period at the beginning is like, you basically wait. Even if you try to complete all the events, you're still using up the entire timer. So like, the fun is worse for solo, and that's kind of what I think the big failing is, because I mean, this is just a statistic I'm guessing, and it's that most people play it solo. That's how most people engage with it, at least the first time. The first time they play it, they probably did it solo. And if it's not fun, then they're not going to give it a second chance. They're not going to come back with a group and do it again, like if they didn't have fun doing it the first time.
Yeah.
So I think they should have designed it to be solo and just said it's solo content and you can't play it in a group, and just design it to be played that way.
Yeah,
I would maybe disagree with that. I think I actually design it as solo content, but say if you want to play it as a group, like focus it as solo content initially, then scale it up rather than scaling it down. I think working on it like that is a lot better. I would also say that this kind of goes a little bit back to what I was maybe saying before and didn't maybe get the point across, is that like everything just feels like a bit of an HP sponge. Particularly in solo, this is something I experienced. Like, I play a fairly self-buffing build on Hollow, right? And karma quickness, all that sort of stuff. But like it still just takes too long. Like it doesn't feel fun when I feel like I'm killing a thing forever with no real risk of failure. And maybe that's okay in a story instance. Maybe I've just been spoiled in other games, but I just, I don't know. I feel like I like the concept. I like the idea behind DRMs, but I feel like the implementation is just not good.
I can't wait till we can use heroes to do DRMs with us, so that we get the fun of a group, but with heroes.
Yeah, could you imagine?
Well, I mean, we'll have to see about that. The interesting thing is
right there, you can see End of Dragons, and there's gems next to it. The gems will let you unlock more hero slots, so you can have more customizable heroes from the gem store. So get ready, boys.
Here we go.
That's an interesting concept.
Hey, look, that sounds like a marketable concept right there. Is what that sounds like. Okay, that's going to be some big money right there. Is what that's going to be.
Especially hero makeover kits.
Oh no!
Get the gems ready.
No.
Kits.
Those 3,000 transmutation charges you've been sitting on.
You need max hero slots so you can have one of every different hair color waifu for your harem of heroes.
Oh my god.
That's the future of Guild Wars 2, guys.
But everyone like dressing up their heroes.
When I'm right, post in the comments of this YouTube video telling me I was right.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be like posting all the boobas, right? Like post your massive harem of boobas in the future with all your heroes. It's gonna be disgraceful. But anyway, well, is there anything else that we miss? I feel like we've exhausted the DRM topic at this point.
We haven't even touched rewards yet.
Well, that's what I mean.
Bad.
Yeah. We can segue.
I came here expecting to talk about rewards, and always we talked about is DRM design.
Well, we could. Now we can do that. Now we can talk about. We've done the design thing. Okay, I think we've come to like a good conclusion there. I think so. We can now talk about rewards. And obviously, a good place to start would be the Dragon Response Mission rewards. Yes. So let's leap right into that. And I think actually, I'm going to give good mark for ArenaNet here. They also listened to the about the Prismaticite, and they courted it. My God. Did just saying, right? They listened, right? They listened. They courted him out of Prismaticite. You need to craft all the shitty weapons so you can get your 1 AP or whatever, right? So hey, they listened on that, but right. And I will say, just to kind of like set the scenes here, DRMs, if you farm them efficiently, they are like 20 to 25 gold an hour, so not horrible. However, Angeels is now going to say things about the rewards, and I'm probably going to agree with all of them.
Let Mikey say things about rewards.
Oh, okay. So, let's go.
Well, this is not necessarily a DRM problem. It was a problem with strikes as well, where rewards are so much more complicated than they need to be, where in the old days you ran a dungeon, you got gold and you got dungeon tokens. That was it. That was the reward. Now you get like some ingots that you don't know what they do. You get some like scraps of paper that you don't know what that does. You get like some green bags and then you get like tokens that you can trade to a vendor that can be traded for other tokens that can be traded for a box that you open that has other boxes inside of it. Like it's so overly and unnecessarily complicated that even if you do it super efficiently and you're getting 20 gold an hour, it doesn't feel like you're getting 20 gold an hour. It feels like you're getting 2 gold an hour because you're just hitting deposit all. And when you hit when you farm content for like 6 hours, like let's say you wanted to do that hardcore and farm content for 6 hours, and you just hit deposit all. Yes, like on Guild Wars 2 efficiency, your net worth is going up, but then you look at your wallet and your gold went up like 1.5 gold over 6 hours. You're like, this is trash. I'm not being rewarded at all. It doesn't feel rewarding, and that's way worse than not being rewarding. Like, it's way better that content, it would be better for content to not be rewarding but feel rewarding than to be rewarding and not feel rewarding. That is just a way worse paradigm. Just finish the DRM, get 50 silver for normal mode, 2 gold or whatever for challenge mode, and if you want bags, add some fucking loot bags. Whatever. Like,
for sure.
Come on.
I think, and this I would say is the biggest criticism of rewards in Guild Wars 2 in the whole game. Would you think that would be?
Hold on a second.
Okay, I've summoned Brazil, by the way. Okay, I've activated Brazil. He's now in play here. Like, you know what, guys? You asked for it, you get it. Right here he is. Don't derail us too hard, though. Okay.
No, I'm not going to derail anything. Hold on.
Okay, but anyway, like, so Angels, would you agree with that statement that in general, like, rewards are just like very, yeah. The rewards in general, they're like, it throws a whole bunch of items at you and it's technically rewarding, but it feels like, what the fuck is this, right? Like, what do I do with this?
You're never gonna know that it's rewarding. And part of the issue is that a lot of materials that used to be valuable are incredibly devalued now. If you think way back to beginning of Guild Wars 2 launch, there was a lot of like RNG and excitement. And this is actually quite an important kind of trend for loot within MMOs. The concept of feeling like you got lucky and being rewarded as such as a consequence. And at Guild Wars 2 launch, you had exotics fulfilling that kind of trend, where people were super excited. And even then, even more on that trend was like precursors, where you were like, oh shit, I got a precursor. And most people this day still haven't gotten a precursor. But this is the problem that ArenaNet hasn't really touched upon. The idea of using really like, not ultra rare, we're not talking about like precursor or Chak Egg Sack kind of like rarity, but mid-level rarity, where suddenly you're getting an item that's worth 30 gold, but you may only get that once every like 4 hours. So even evens out to something like 20 gold an hour with all the other loot you get. But ultimately, it's more focused on you, like you're focusing more on the big ticket items rather than the small trash loot. Because the small trash loot, whilst it does add up, like Nike was saying, a lot of it is just like 1 or 2 silver per material. And then you're getting something like 15 different materials. And even if they were to amalgamate those materials down to like 5, and each of those be worth like 15, 20 silver each, then it would be more kind of like understandable and appreciable, like when you get stuff. But it's the fact that it's so spread out, and the fact that it's so constant. There's never those big ticket items to spike up your golden hour.
So, well, a lot of it too is like economy based, in that something might be worth, like, let's say for some economic reason, like tier 5 wood triples in price. Well, then the events that give you a shit ton of tier 5 wood suddenly become profitable and people want to run them. But then like a year later, when T5 wood is like in the coppers, then no one's going to want to run the content, and ANET's never going to go back and tweak the rewards. And you saw this happen with raids. When raids first came out, the average exotic weapon was a couple gold, and like raid rewards were based around the idea that you're going to get an exotic that's worth a couple gold in addition to the raw gold from the raid boss. So you're going to get pretty decent rewards. But over time, the exotics have like dwindled down to nothing in price, and therefore the raid rewards have steadily gotten worse over time, just because of the economic reason. So I think that there is merit to like just giving flat gold as like the lion's share of the reward, if not necessarily like all the reward, but like at least a significant enough portion of the reward so that you feel rewarded just based off of the raw gold you're getting. And people have said in chat that gold is useless. Gold is everything. Gold, there's nothing you can't buy with gold, like including stuff in the gem store. So gold is like the best thing to get. T5 wood, that's useless. Like that is like it's a crafting material that if you don't care about crafting, all it is like gold that you have to go through a couple steps to get. Like it's gold is like by far the best thing you can get. Like you can go to Guild Wars 2 Exchange and buy Chak egg sacs with gold. Like, come on, that's good stuff. Like, gold is like the way best reward they can give, and they've been super stingy since like HOT came out in terms of raw gold. They changed their whole philosophy on rewards. And
you should just give us real money, honestly. Just give us straight US dollars.
Okay, so let's talk about this, actually. Let's talk about this. So, Nike, you're big into Path of Exile, Angeels, RuneScape. Don't those games function similarly, though? Like, RuneScape, the boss doesn't just drop like 1 million gold, right? The boss drops a rare item that then you might either be able to use or sell. And isn't it the same in Path of Exile there as well, Nike? Like various orbs and various loot items?
Yeah, but the orbs are
you can
our
obtain?
Currency. It's like gold by a different name.
Yeah, but you don't get them every time, though, right? Like,
I know where you're going with this, Teapot.
Yeah,
because you're going to refer back to the volcanic weapons in DRMs, and you're right. DRMs are that big ticket item that you're supposed to look forward to. Okay, but the issue is that we still have that underlying loot issue, and the wider game. And I was talking about how the game doesn't have that RNG incentive. I will refer to the wider game because I do recognize that DRMs do have that big ticket item in the volcanic weapons, which is great. That's a really good step forward, and I'm so fucking happy that they finally implemented something like this in this kind of content.
I think the volcanic weapons are the best thing that they've done for rewards, but the worry would be that now that they're 30 gold each, it feels great when one drops, but if they like through whatever go down to like 2 gold each, it's gonna feel like garbage. Well, not garbage, but it's gonna be like oh, whatever.
That happened with the dragon stand weapons, like the Mordrum Saber. I was looking at those the other day because I wanted to buy one, and they're like less than 6 gold, like 6 gold or less. Like I think some of them are 2, and they used to be like 100 plus. But I guess people have just had long enough to open their daily machetes and go do a dragon stand once a month and get lucky.
Okay.
Also, the difference between Guild Wars 2 and PoE is that PoE there are 0 gates. It's like full speed ahead, play for 40 hours in a row, no sleep, all gas, no breaks. Make your character as fast as fucking possible as like there's no stopping the farm. You go, zoom, zoom, zoom. And that is like the exact opposite of like any MMO. Like every MMO is going to gate you somehow in terms of the most rewarding content. Whereas with PoE, like there's literally nothing to stop you from doing the most rewarding content endlessly besides your own sanity.
Same applies to RuneScape. If I want to farm a boss for hours on end, which I have done, I can do that and nothing's going to stop me. But like what kind of the important thing for DRMs as well is the fact that the base loot in itself is kind of just trash. Sure, it's rewarding long term, in terms of all the materials that you get, but there's not that mid-tier loot. Realistically, it should scale. Sometimes you're going to get really bad drops. Most of the time, you're going to get medium level drops, and then very rarely you're going to get really good drops. And it's important that you have that scaling. Whereas with Guild Wars 2, you have this baseline of like, it's low to mid, where you're going to get like materials, and then occasionally it's going to spike up with in the case of DRMs, but not really any other content. It's going to spike up, and you get the volcanic, about 30 goldish now, as Nike said, and then it's going to go back down to that like that low mid level of loot. And when you're getting that low mid, go ahead.
I was going to say, so the proof is sort of in the pudding. Does any player that plays Guild Wars 2 log in and farm DRMs for like 10 hours straight and then go, yep, great farm session. That's my gameplay for the day? No one does that. Nobody farms them that hard. Not a single player does that. So totally not like if the rewards were good, that's what people would be doing. And the fact that they're not is a sign that there's something wrong on some level.
Well, the thing is, though, ArenaNet has kind of set it up such that ArenaNet don't want you to do that, though, really. They give you the option, but they don't really want you to. They heavily incentivize you to engage in as many different activities as possible. Yeah. And I know you're about to say, yeah, but
you can't have fun.
But But the thing is, like, this is literally like this is a really awkward.
It went from play how you want to like play how we want.
Well, no, it was honestly, it was always like that. Let's be honest. Like, there's a reason when you did a dungeon tour, you did all the dungeons separately, right? Like you didn't,
not at first. They changed that.
They did change it.
You did
like see if Path 1. Yeah, but that was so trash. That was garbage.
Yeah,
man.
It was. Like, but some of like my best memories are going, okay, I need to get some gold to save up for this precursor.
Yeah.
Me and my friends popped our gold boosters and we ran COF Path 2 or whatever, Path 1 for like 6 hours. And yeah, like it's kind of cancerous gameplay, but like that was like the original design, and ArenaNet was like, oh no, we can't have you farming one piece of content. You have to do variety content to feel rewarded.
I think in a way, though, like the reason they do that is because they don't want people to feel like they have to do one thing over and over and over again, right? I think they see patterns like that emerging, and they want to discourage it because they don't like it, and that a lot of players don't like it as well. And I know that sounds weird, but I mean, look, Guild Wars 2 is the anti-MMO. I'm not necessarily excusing this. I think there should be a grindable option, which DRMs are obviously moving in that direction there a little bit, and honestly PvP is actually in that direction too. Like it's very, very grindable, right? Like to grind out liquid gold in particular, it's very good to do that. But in a way, Guild Wars 2 is positioned as the anti-MMO, right? It is the game where you don't do that. I don't see them changing. I'm not even necessarily giving an opinion on this. I don't see them changing this because the fact that what you're describing doesn't exist is kind of like one of the marketing points they have, right? In a lot of ways, right? Like that is their shtick, is that we are not WoW, is basically one of like the biggest points that Guild Wars 2 has going for it, right?
Do you want the Omega Furnace right here? Like, is it cool if I give the Omega Furnace?
Angels goes, then we activate Brazil, and Brazil unleashes its fury.
I have to ask the question: has that worked out for them? Like, has going against the standard MMO concepts actually worked out for them?
Let me devil's advocate. I'm going to say that it was definitely not the cause of the downfall of Guild Wars 2. In fact, I would argue that...
I would disagree. I think on a fundamental level, the fact that they constantly went against a lot of these principles, like the rewarding design and getting people to consistently play and grind a bit. I mean, Guild Wars 2 is grind, but like it has no purpose. That when a casual player asks how to earn gold, there's like some vague, wishy-washy answer because there's no clear method.
No, right.
There's so many issues.
Wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
No.
You're absolutely wrong. And I'm not saying this like I'm not being mean while I'm saying this. This is just honestly how I think I view it after like this much time. I think the rewards are like, it's a meme. You do like a raid and you get like a chest that has like an exotic that's worth like 30 silver that used to be worth 5 gold. And like you get your 2 blues and a green or whatever. But I think they do that on purpose because I think they would rather just filter people into the greatest gold farm in the game, which is just buying gems and converting it. And like I honestly think that's probably like what they have tried to shift the economy to, like just people buying gems. Because like here's a little bit of an anecdote, something fun. So another thing, I think the more you play the game, the worse your RNG gets, and this is something that like we've all talked about. Like here
returning player RNG is like the strongest RNG that there is.
Literally, I had not played the game in probably 4 months. I logged on and did a map completion with Sarah, my e-girl, and I got a Black Lion key. I bought a Black Lion chest. I got one of the fucking like exotic grab bags and got the bard out of it. Like hadn't logged on, and that's like the only thing I did, and it's like nice. a fucking key and a precursor. It's worth like 60 gold. That was the other thing. Like LOL, the bard used to be worth some coin, but now it's worth nothing. And so it's just like stuff like that. Like I think the grind aspect of like doing dungeons or like grinding a particular content, they just want you to grind the tokens. But I don't think they want you to be able to grind and farm gold because they want you to just buy gems. Like I really do think that.
I don't think you're wrong on that one, to be honest. But I mean, certainly in terms of player counts and probably profits, it's not that strategy hasn't necessarily worked out for them, I feel. Because
have you seen how many people have outfits and back pieces?
Yeah, but like looking at their earnings.
I mean, this is
I think they're just doing a bad job of keeping people engaged in the game in general. I think their monetization works fine for the player base they have. I just don't think their player base is large.
If I may, gentlemen, I actually do want to. I think talking about stuff like the business model and how microtransactions influences rewards is actually really important. But I kind of wanted to save that for a little bit later and kind of go back to the direction we were talking about previously, like with what Angeels is discussing about like how did it work out well for them? Because this look right. Listen up, chat. Okay, you know what? I've had enough. I've had enough. Okay, look. If anyone seriously thinks that like the reward structure of Guild Wars 2 has been the downfall of Guild Wars 2, you are actually insane, right? You are fucking insane. Because look, there are way bigger problems with the game.
Insane,
no, you don't believe that. You do not believe that.
No, I do. Yeah. The thing is, I actually do. Because I think the reward system of an MMO ties into every single existing system of an MMO.
I think only hardcore players hit the ceiling that you're describing. Though,
well, it's
I'm not casual players that like play for an hour a day. They're not worried about gold per hour.
And they get the exotic drop, and you can see them when you run around with third-party software and see that they literally just equip the exotic drops that they get.
I feel a lot of my thoughts actually refer more to casual players because I think that a lot of people have zero idea.
I'm the one who doesn't feel rewarded when I run TRMs.
No, I think
they feel probably great.
No. I don't think casual players have any idea how to earn gold in this game. Like, why
gem store?
Okay, gem store aside, right?
It's true. You are right there.
This is a problem. There is zero obvious progression beyond getting ascended gear, okay, and getting a legendary. There is zero progression on how, like, zero structure as to how you're supposed to earn that gold. There's zero reason to do a lot of the end game content because it's not rewarding. The reality is that because they have a massive number of people who are looking up these gold guides. Guys, just go and look at the YouTube numbers for stuff like gold guides or why people watch these giveaway streamers on Twitch. Like they're looking
to
get
about
gold.
That. That's contraband topic.
Okay, but to be fair, right? In any game that's very grindy, it's going to be that way. I mean, like think about
it's not,
dude, classic WoW gold farming guides. That's fucking big, dude. Right? Like a RuneScape farming guide. That's fucking big.
Yes,
okay, right? Like BDO farming guides. Right? Like. It's so big. I feel like, but isn't that literally the point of MMOs? Like they are grindy. Like that's what MMOs are, right? It's all about grinding gold.
But there's no clear way to grind in Guild Wars 2.
Now that actually is a problem. Now I would agree with you there.
That's what I'm saying. There's no clear way for a player to earn gold in this game.
It used to be easy. It used to just be okay. You finish the story. You can do open world stuff. Like farm of certain events to get materials, or you can run dungeons and get raw gold.
Exactly.
And then it's become complicated and like watered down, and basically everything is rewarding, but it's like low level like rewarding to where your net worth, like I said earlier, your net worth is going up, but it doesn't feel like it. But everything does that. So like it's just hard you can't just simply point someone and say, yeah, the end game gold farm is X, because there literally is nothing like that.
I want to talk about this immediately, but I just want to ask you this one question, Angeels, because I actually really like this is a great conversation, by the way, and I want to leap back into it. But seriously, like, what would you rather have? Good reward structure Or would you rather have an actual, like, really good content release schedule in Guild Wars 2? Because, like, surely you would have the good content release schedule, right? Because that to me is, like, the actual big issue with Guild Wars 2. It's content release and design vision, right? Like, they don't push their vision and they don't release content.
No. Okay, I fully admit that there is an element of, like, there is definitely an issue where the content release schedule sucks. But at the same time, as we have seen, you know, with other games, you know, they have managed to keep people in game by literally releasing reward-focused systems. You know, that's all they've released for like a year at a time. Reward-focused systems to keep people in the game. And this is the issue. People don't come to a game for a reward-focused system, but they will certainly leave it if there is nothing there to keep them engaged. And Guild Wars 2 has nothing in the game to keep people engaged. None whatsoever.
And yeah, and this is where we get back to the other conversation. I would definitely say this is an issue with the game. The game is very complicated in its reward structure, right? I think we can find some common ground there. I think for sure, right? Like, it is very complicated.
I think you and I just, you know, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, for sure.
I would like to add some clarification to that. If that's okay.
Yeah, Brazil activates.
I think the reward structure, but like specifically for me, like there are a billion currencies, and they went through like a year and a half straight of just every single update they added a new currency that like you could only get specific things with. And like that's something that like really turned me off. It's like, okay, like what the fuck do I want to get? And if I want to get it, I have to like do this specific thing, like guild commendations, laurels, all this horse shit.
And a lot of that is their way of like, so like in a game like Path of Exile or Diablo, you have leagues, and every league you start basically over from scratch, because otherwise the bazillionaire players that have been playing since launch would be so far ahead that they could get all the rewards on day one. So coming out with the new map with its new currency and the rewards gated behind the new currency meant that Enko can't show up and get whatever the reward is for that map day one. He has to play it like everybody else. And that's sort of their philosophy there. And there's something to it, but it's also at the same time frustrating, because you're like, well, why do I have 8,000 gold. Why do I have it if I can't get anything with it? You know what I mean? Like that's the frustration. If you're like, well, every reward is tied behind this new dumb currency that I don't care about, like that's annoying. And
well, they try and do both, right? They hit you with the Mystic Tribute simultaneously, right? They say, yeah, you're going to need all that stuff, and you need a Mystic Tribute for stuff like Aurora, Vision, Coalescence, all that kind of stuff, right? So they do a little bit of both to slow you down so you can't get it immediately. Because this is actually one of my big issues with legendary weapons, actually. Like, oh my god. Like, I would dread the release of a new legendary. Like, oh, dude, I really want Shining Blade, but it's going to be like me looking at the wiki, buying items for like 10 minutes and then crafting for another half an hour. I was like, oh my god, please make it stop. Right? So at least the ones that had collections are a little bit more interesting because you actually get some kind of gameplay integrated in there as well. But so,
honestly, I like the new method of making them just with gold.
Like, what do you mean? It's so true. It's so true.
I mean, there's a reason why I had World's First Ferris for Shining Blade. Because I knew exactly what I needed, and I logged in as soon as the server went live, and I hit the button to craft, and my legendary popped out, and it felt great.
Nice.
Yeah, and also like the other aspect of that is you like for Hope, when I was making Hope, literally I had to wait like 3 days for an event that was bugged to start and not bug.
Good times. I remember that.
I was watching Envy do a collection, and it was like this open world event that had to fail. Like it had to fail in order to progress.
Welcome.
And like some noob just wandering through the map comes up and starts like completing the event, and they're all like yelling in say chat, let it fail, and you're like, oh my god, this guy's gonna complete the event. And then like it was like I was like, that is so bad, dude. Yeah. That is so bad.
Nice. Right, hot take.
Okay.
There is actually an insane amount of content and things for people to go after. They just don't know how to get it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Boom.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff. You could, if you just installed the game today, you have years of goals ahead of you.
And they're actually quite meaningful. Dude, look, I'm hyped. Seriously, I'm nearly done with Aurora right now. By the way, not actually bad. I don't know what you kids are even complaining about, right?
Yeah,
Seriously.
You don't care about the
Aurora wasn't nearly as bad as Vision. Have fun with Vision.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, maybe Vision Wheels. I haven't moved on to that yet. I've done some of it, but not that much.
It's a great map.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that's a quality map right there. Nice.
Oh, you see, Teapot actually has it easy because when it comes to Vision, he's got the the Icebridge Saga material. You know,
yeah, that's true. I've got loads of those. I got like
he doesn't have to grind out the 3K.
Yeah, do you have to do Astralarium every day for like 2 weeks?
Farming. Meteor farming was fun though.
I already have like infinite of all the currencies because I've just been doing so many reward tracks that I have like infinite of every currency. So I'm good. I'm good to go.
This is actually something I do want to touch upon. Yeah. Okay, is that when I say rewarding, there is actually another element to being rewarded. Okay, and that is feeling like you achieved something. Okay, now Guild Wars 2, I feel you don't necessarily get that dopamine hit like, oh, I achieved something here all that often. Okay, maybe when you're a new player and you're like, I just achieved this JP for the first time, or I got my first legendary. But beyond that, there is not a lot.
Yo, this Dibbly guy is like smashing you all day in chat, man.
He really doesn't like me, does he?
He has his reasons. I think they're good.
Well, I think that's definitely a fair statement, but I think there is something to be said for like the real kind of like not exactly mundane, but like normal stuff, right? Okay, I'm gonna actually expose myself here a little bit, guys. I'm a bit of a hardcore role player, and I've got to say, like, doing the jumping puzzle in Siren's Landing again, right? Doing the jumping puzzle in like Chalice of Tears, running around like talking to all the NPCs and like finding stuff in Lake Doric and doing like really like the Melandru, Priestess Melandru little mini dungeon thing where you got to like light the torch and lead her along like the path to the Melandru temple. That was really cool. Like interacting with the NPCs and actually kind of like getting involved in the world. I actually really enjoyed it. Does it feel like an achievement? I mean, I guess no. Because, ultimately it is trivial, right? I'm just running around like playing my video game, but is it enjoyable? I mean, yeah, sure. I think it is actually pretty good.
I think collections are really good and some of Guild Wars 2's best content. I know a lot of people see it as just a system as opposed to actual content. But I see collections as real content. It's a way of like engaging, getting something out of it. It's a journey. But unfortunately, I feel that there's not enough of these journeys, so to speak. There's not enough of this kind of like, you start something, you progress along the way, and maybe that thing that you progress along the way has you doing different things that maybe get you to engage with the world or whatever. But at the end of the day, you get something at the end, and that feels really good. But like a lot of that's, like Sig says in chat here, collections are just quests, and quests are pretty fun. It turns out. So yeah, I think there's
what's the issue here? Like what do you think needs to be added? Like what's Guild Wars 2 missing in terms of this? Is it just like that sense of direction that players maybe lack?
The direction is super important. Super important. You look at like a game like RuneScape. Okay, and I'm going to refer to this a lot today. I think. You got your skills. You level up your skills, and along the way, you get access to different rewards or whatever. Masteries don't really feed into that because, yeah, sure, you gain access to different things, but it's one of the positions where you just it doesn't unlock a lot. It's not groundbreaking. It doesn't open you up. The Guild Wars 2 has a lot of like I've got this image in my mind, like dots on a map. But there's no lines towards those dots. You've got no pathways to those dots. They're just vague. You have to know that they're there before you can actually ever engage with them. And maybe this is an issue that other MMOs deal with as well. But I certainly think that Guild Wars 2 for a casual player needs those lines. They need a route that says, oh, here's raids, so you can actually progress.
Oh, yeah. And this is definitely true. And the MMO industry, Angeels, agrees with you. There is a reason that games like RuneScape don't exist anymore, or like RuneScape 3 is going to be a lot more streamlined, or WoW is going to be a lot. I mean, if you look at retail WoW compared to classic WoW, it is absolutely two different video games. Like classic WoW is very like, you know, it is weird. By the way, guys, I actually didn't realize this quite as much until 1, I played classic WoW again through. 2, I played through the core game of Guild Wars 2, and 3, I did like a lot of the some of the collection stuff here as well. Like classic WoW and Guild Wars 2 are so similar. It's actually weird how similar these two games are. Actually, they're both incredibly open-ended, right, in this way, compared to a lot of modern titles which are significantly more streamlined. And this is something that I have never really even thought about, because I've always thought, dude, this is amazing. I love that I can just go over and do anything. But this isn't actually what a lot of people want. And, you know, and this is where it really comes in. Like, a lot of players want a more streamlined experience, right? With less openness and less freedom to an extent.
But the thing is that I don't feel like giving direction or whatever necessarily has to take away from that freedom. You know, like, I think that... this is so difficult to explain. By putting more rewards, by giving people those dopamine hits as they achieve things, as they progress, and I'm certainly sure this will come up later on as when we get onto stuff like vertical progression and stuff, which I know will trigger a lot of chat. Giving people those stages where they're like, right, I've achieved this, and now I've gained access to this tier of content. And that content might be dioramas. And now I've achieved this, I've now got access to fractals. And I think a lot of the case where people don't improve as players and maybe lose interest with the game, or never feel that they can actually engage with stuff like fractals, fractal CMs, raids, etc., is because they never have those stepping stones. And the stepping stones where they feel like they've achieved something, where they've progressed on a... It seems like arbitrary, because for you and I, Teapot, we would just go, okay, I'm just going to go do a raid. I've never done this content before, but I'm going to go learn it. And I'm going to do it with whatever I need to do. But I think a lot of people really do need these stepping stones to say, you know what? Now I've achieved ascended gear. I now have access to raids. And so whilst I say, rewards and reward structure is the issue with the game, I think it actually is the issue with the game, because it doesn't keep people in the game, because they eventually lose interest when they achieve the top tiers. But it also doesn't give people the stepping stones that they need to be able to stay in the game longer and actually engage with the wider variety of content. It's very easy to say to someone, "I'll just go learn it." But I think people really do need that confidence. And that's where it kind of steps in.
And so in other words, you just think there needs to be... the players just need to be given a bit of a nudge, right? Like, go here and do that, essentially.
People need to feel that they've achieved something and feel like they are ready to do something. You know? Like, the skill is not a consideration for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, and it could be like a collection, which we all agree are good, that has steps where it's like, okay, once you have full ascended armor, now you unlock tier 2 of the collection, which is get to fractal reward level 100. You know what I mean? And then like once you unlock that, then it's like, okay, now come kill a raid boss and you unlock the next tier of the and it steps you the whole way through the content. That would be great. And just do it within the existing collection system.
I think I don't personally like collections, because the UI for collections and achievements and everything is so just painfully awful, and navigating
you can't sort things
disastrous.
The way you want them to be,
right?
Which is annoying.
Like I would rather there just not be collections, and like you just get like a pop up, like a window that just like, it's painful. I'm not a UI designer. I don't know how to make it better. I just know that I really don't like it, and it's painful to use. But yeah, sorry, I just had to input that in. Since we don't all like collections, I had to disagree with you.
You know, I think that's perfectly okay. You know, like I think that you're certainly right in terms of progression formats. Collections probably aren't the best. You know, I think that a rising number, like in RuneScape, rising from level 1 to 99, or you know, quest systems are very easy, much better ways of representing progression. Collections are clearly, they've tried to implement these ideas into a very into the system that they already had, rather than developing a new one. So I certainly agree with you there, Blizzard.
Yeah, I think another thing that like I'm just interested to hear your take on is like there are a whole lot of video games where you can earn rewards really fast and like instantly buy them and unlock them and look cool, and then you can just move on to another video game and do that because there are a million of them out there. And it's like Guild Wars 2, like some of the stuff takes some time, and like some of it there is direction and some of it there's not. But like if it takes you a month to grind out the coolest skin or a year to grind out like full legendary armor or whatever, like why would you do that when you can just go play one of a million games where you can get it within like a week and then move on because you don't have the sense of loyalty for a video game? Like I think a lot of it comes from like some people don't care about the community aspect. Like me, I've been enjoying the game the little bit I've played over the past few months, just logging in with like friends and just doing stuff. And I mean, not to get back on the DRMs or anything, but like those were cool for that at first when they were new because everyone was excited and we could do DRMs and it was new and kind of challenging. And then like I got sick of them because I didn't like grinding the content, even though I think it's a good base and the design's pretty solid. But like I just started doing other shit and then I quit playing for a while and logged in and like did a map completion. Like that's the fun for me. Like the game itself is like whatever. I just like playing with friends. But if someone just wants like a single player experience and rewards, like why would you play Guild Wars 2? And like I don't think it's the correct video game for you. Like you should play Destiny and just shoot into a cave while loot flies out at you.
Finally I can activate. That's right, because Guild Wars 2, the game is the reward. Yes, fuck rewards. Yes, gameplay, rules. Gameplay is the only important thing in video games. Yeah, true.
Yeah, like I agree with that, honestly. The funny thing is though, is that ArenaNet disagrees with you. Despite what you think.
Yeah, no, I know they do. That's the thing, okay? I wish they didn't. I wish they were like, you know, fuck that shit. We're just going to make our game really engaging and mega fun.
9% of players who disagree with you.
Yeah, I know. And it makes me sad.
Players do not get a dopamine hit. Like, feel happy from, you know, having fun. They want to achieve something.
People get dopamine hits from, like, I don't think that they get those from games anymore, care about them. They might get, like, a percentage of a dopamine hit. But, like, let's be real. Like, if you want a real dopamine hit on the internet, there are websites where you can pay $10 a month and watch people on videos have dopamine hits, and you can get a dopamine hit by watching them. So, like, fuck. Like, it's a video game. Like, you're not playing a video game for a dopamine hit. Lol.
But the thing is, I think that's where you and Teapot are kind of wrong. I think people are.
No, they definitely are. They are. Maybe not back in the day, like maybe not 10 years ago, but they definitely are now.
No, back in the day as well.
I mean, like getting killing a raid boss for the first time is like definitely a dopamine hit.
The way you got it was so different though. Like I think it was like I think the reason why people play games has actually changed a lot. Like sure, yeah, you want to grind for the drops, but I think like it was much more about the actual experience. Like now it is more about okay, do this, do that. I mean, look, amazing example of this is definitely again to go back to WoW Classic here. The way people played WoW Classic when it released, like the actual vanilla WoW compared to how people played Classic was insane. Like back in the day, the game was about finishing quests and leveling and doing dungeons. Now, you skipped all of that and did raids, right? And how did you do that? You literally had mages that you had people farming the same dungeon over and over and over again. You had mages running around like one-shotting everything, farming the entire dungeon, but you just basically skip the leveling process, right? Like entirely, right?
There's no difference in that. It's still achieving something. There's no difference.
No, that's not what I meant though, right? Like, the way people do it is different, is what I'm trying to get at, right? Like, yeah, you're achieving something, but the way you approach it and the way you're oriented, like, you know, people are very oriented towards the end game now, and the end game. Previously, the dopamine hit or the enjoyment was the journey, right? Like, it was different target. It was, the enjoyment was centralized differently in the video game. Like,
that's because the game companies didn't know, they hadn't refined their slot machines yet. The slot machines it wasn't clear you just had to pull the lever and get the loot. They thought you had to it was like a stick shift in a car, where they thought that the fun was like the journey of the lever going from the top to the bottom. But what they realized is that the people just want the lever to go down as quickly as possible.
Right.
And spit out the tokens.
Very correct. Very quickly. Yeah, I completely agree with that, by the way, Nike. I think this is definitely something that the industry has evolved, but no, that is not just wrong. Yes, the advent of guides absolutely accelerated this process, but here's the thing, guys. Achievements did not exist in WoW until Wrath of the Lich King. The whole, achievement centralized thing did not, it was I think it started out on, it was like an Xbox thing at some point as well. This entire thing did not exist. It just did not exist, period, right? The way stuff used to work was completely differently because the way people played and engaged with video games was different. Yes, the advent of guides is something that actually accelerated this, and it kind of feeds back into itself because guides create this kind of very goal-oriented gameplay, whereas previously it was very open and just play the game how you want. But as the industry evolved and as the players evolved, yes, it went in that direction. I completely agree, by the way. That is absolutely correct. But to say that people did not play games for different reasons and approach them differently, and games were designed differently to cater to those needs, is insanity. The way modern games are designed is very short term.
In the 1960s, people smoked really weak weed that was that barely got you high, and today in California or Colorado, you can get this ultra super highly concentrated weed that gives you a hallucinogenic experience. They've refined that shit to its most purest dopamine pleasurable experience. And it's the same thing. They designed games that were not fun back in the day, that a scientist that studies Stanford University has a whole division of game design and reward design and stuff, but it's mostly for apps, to figure out how to make apps more addicting, so that you keep using the apps more. But it's the same thing with games, where there's a science to making things addicting, and the stuff in the old days was not as addicting as it is today. And maybe that attracted a different type of player who was either more easily addicted or wasn't in it for that. But it's totally super highly concentrated now.
Yes.
And you have to go for that big hit.
Exactly. And that's, I think that's kind of in a way, the centralized issue here. It's that so many players are now incredibly goal-oriented, and the gameplay, in a way, is an obstacle to a lot of this stuff, which is fair enough, by the way. If that is your perspective, then that is a valid perspective. I'm not saying that anyone's wrong here. This is an inherently incredibly subjective take. And just for the record here, by the way, guys, I agree with basically everything Angeels is saying here. This is definitely how most people play video games, and I recognize I'm a weirdo who doesn't really give a shit about any of this stuff, and it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me that it's going to take me 16 days to get the stupid Wayfarer's Henge. I mean, it's kind of wow, I'm getting trolled, but the gameplay is fine, right? And I know that's a weird statement. I think a lot of people will go Teapot, how can you possibly be okay with that? And that is a fair thing to say, by the way. But it just doesn't bother me. It's because I don't mind playing it. The gameplay is not bad. The only thing that really bothered me in the entire Aurora collection was finding 40 Mozart tokens. I have never been more tempted, guys, to install teleport hacks and just talk to Brazil to get me the coordinates for all of the tokens than doing that. I would actually go as far to say, guys, that may have been one of my worst experiences in gaming ever, doing those 40 Mozart tokens. I nearly rage quit. Seriously, guys, I'm not joking. And why? Because I didn't use a guide, guys. And this is another really big issue, actually. Oh, Brazil has now replaced Angeels. There you go. Okay. That's kind of a bonus meme there. But one of the things that I really wanted to talk about, actually, and Angel, I really want your input in that, actually. This is a really big brain thing. Oh, is it actually gone?
Did he rage quit?
Wait, is he gone?
I had
to go step away.
Oh, he BRB'd. Oh, okay, right. Well, in that case, well, when Angeels comes back, I'm going to ask... okay. All right, yeah, I really want your input on this, actually. How do you feel about the fact that playing Guild Wars 2 without having the wiki open on another tab is actual hell? Okay.
Oh, no. I love it.
Wait, what?
I do every single collection on release. If I do Aurora and stuff like that, I did it with no guides.
No. But do you think that's a problem though? Because I think that I think that this is something that really kind of sucks people out of the game, is the fact that if you want to do this stuff, like, dude, there are some things that, like, the hints are garbage, okay? Look, like,
I mean, yes and no, but, like, okay, so here's the problem. From my personal perspective, okay, I really like this stuff because I find it challenging. I also love the fact that I know a lot of this stuff and can work out stuff, like, using my brain. I like that. Okay, it's fun for me. But I do recognize the fact that a lot of people find that completely uninteresting and would rather just go to the wiki. And that is a problem. If a lot of the content that people are engaging with, they're just going to the wiki and looking stuff up or looking at guides, that is a bit of a problem. That they're not actually engaging with the content at that point. They're just looking stuff up, and they probably need to reevaluate how they're actually.
Well, that's just design. That's just quest design, essentially not being very good. Like Noxie says, like, find this bottle, hint it's somewhere in Tyria. If it, like, that sucks. But what's good is, like, go kill the priest of Balthazar in Straits of Devastation. It's like, okay, well, that's a lot more obvious what you're supposed to do, and it seems totally fine.
I really like going to the wiki. Like, I was also the kid that, like, would go to GameStop when I got a new game and
buy the guide.
No, I would look at the guide and, like, write stuff down from it in the store because I didn't want to buy it. But yeah, like, I like having stuff to, like, pull me away from the game, so it's like digging and being clever. Like, I like that. Like, I like wikis and shit. What I don't like is poorly written dungeon guides on wikis. But I do enjoy that. Like, I like that a lot, actually, personally.
There's a dude that worked at the electronics boutique in the mall in my town, and when Morrowind came out, Elder Scrolls game, like, that game has a lot of hidden stuff in it, like any Elder Scrolls game.
Because the fog keeps you from seeing anything.
Yeah, and, like, Elder Scrolls, like, there's, like, tons of hidden stuff, like hidden quests, like whole hidden, like, things. So I go in there and I buy the guide book, like I forget what that company was that always made, like, the guides and stuff. Prima, yeah. I buy the book. The dude behind the counter who, like, role played as Neo from the Matrix, like who worked there, like, made fun of me for buying the book. So I'm like, okay, then give me my money back. Then I won't buy it. You just lost a sale, and, like, give me my money back. And it's like, what a fucking douche, man. Some people like having that. Like, it's not like a spoiler to a movie. It's not. You're not watching a movie. You're playing a game. It's not a spoiler. You can't spoil it.
I don't think there's any issue with people kind of wanting to look up guides for stuff. Like,
I suppose I do actually have a bit of a problem with anything in the game taking you out of the game, right? I don't have a problem with, a quest that says, oh, you need to go northeast to hunt this boar, right? That's fine. Because that doesn't take you out of the game. Yeah, it doesn't, like, point you. It doesn't, like, there's not a marker on the map that says, yeah, you've got to go here. And you might have to, it might take you a while to find it. But it doesn't really require it doesn't really require you to go out of the game that much. There are some collections in Guild Wars 2 that are so vague that I think even I will have to look them up. I mean, like, I'm looking at this one for Coalescence where I've got to get all these bottles, and and they're like, what? It's just, oh, this could be literally anywhere. It could be literally anywhere in Tyria. And it's like, you fucking kidding me? Right? Like, what is this?
That's just bad. That's bad. Like, that's like lazy quest design. I wouldn't even call it bad. It's just like,
yeah.
It's like the devs, like, going, okay, let's fill up this bottle deal as quick as we can.
We got to crunch. We got to get it out.
So I guess that's the issue I have. I mean, with some of this stuff, like, I think that games should be self-contained. Again, I don't mind the wiki. I think guides are good. Guides for raid bosses, guides for doing collections or crafting, whatever. That's fine. I think it's good to have that, like, having resources in the community is always good to, smooth out the process even further. But I do think that when it comes to reward, this is kind of the same thing we were talking about earlier, in my opinion, is that the game, if you want to learn how to make gold, this is what we were talking about when Angeels was talking about the gold guides, right? If you want to learn how to actually play Guild Wars 2, you got to watch, like, 2 hours of videos before you actually know how to do it, right? You know what I mean? It's like...
Some people like that. Like, I love that.
Yeah, same. I like that, too.
like, so there's like a skill curve with video games, and there's also a knowledge curve, and one can kind of compensate for the other. And with a complicated game like an MMO or like a game like PoE, like you can get ahead by accelerating your knowledge curve and like learning more of the systems and mastering that before you're like a super highly skilled player. And I think like that's, for me, that's super fun, is to like look at YouTube videos and kind of like try to like figure out the game from the knowledge curve standpoint. Like there's a lot, I think there's people that, I'm not alone in thinking that that's a fun way to find progression and meaningful progression.
I do like to watch guides and stuff and it kind of points me in, that boosts my progression in terms of skill. I think that's good. And I think it's important that stuff like that exists. But I would also say, going back a little bit, that it's important that, you know, the game itself does give you a bit more direction.
Like, because I would argue that that's kind of the issue you were alluding to, right, Angeels? I would say that, sure. Is it okay that that's the case? Yes. Is it necessarily good design? I would argue no. And I would probably look at more modern MMOs to detail this. I mean, a lot of games have like a very guided system, whether that be through the base game or through add-ons. I mean, if you look in, say, Retail World of Warcraft, which I think is a great example of this, if you want to look at a raid, there's a dungeon journal, and it tells you all the mechanics, right? And it tells you how to do this. Oh, if you're a DPS, what do you watch out for? If you're a tank, what do you watch out for? And, you know, it gives you a little bit of background on the boss and tells you what all the skills do. I think that's kind of an interesting concept in a way. Because normally, you might want... And in fact, obviously, in WoW, you still have boss guides, right? Like, you have more detailed boss guides. But certainly for, like, the, you know, for getting, like, a vague idea, like, the game can do that for you. And Guild Wars 2 attempted to do this a little bit with that little content guide widget that they have there, but obviously it's not quite to the same extent. I'm just wondering if maybe there needs to be like a lot more detailed documentation of a few of these things actually in the game. Like, it almost feels like Guild Wars 2 is actually too hardcore for the audience it's trying to appeal to, which is obviously that slightly more casual player base.
I think there's certainly an element of that, and it's not something I was necessarily alluding to when I was kind of like talking about this, but I think it's certainly something that should probably be looked at.
The new player experience V2.
Yeah.
Magical light, come back.
I mean, you know, definitely listing stuff in game. You know, like saying that raids even exist in the game would be like a fantastic start, you know. But I guess there's other ways that
you get like a mail when you hit level 80 that says, by the way, fractals exist.
Yeah.
But by then you've gotten like 8 different mails for dungeons that have showed up, and you've deleted them, and so the game has trained you to delete the mails as soon as you get them. Without reading them, so you didn't read the fractal mail that told you that's the end game. So like you get one mail that says, "Hey guys, the end game is this," and you just deleted it and didn't read it. So
think back to Guild Wars 2 release. Okay, how did you get exotic gear back at Guild Wars 2 release?
Spamming dungeons or crafting. Actually, crafted my first one and then
crafting or spamming dungeons, right? Like. Just saying, that gets you to play the content. That makes you immediately engaged with the high level content at the time. Guild Wars 2 today, you don't have that. You know, where are you going to get your first set of exotic gear? You're going to buy it probably, or you're going to be gifted it as part of like some random level up reward, or you're just going to wear whatever. There's no
gems for gold. Honestly, if I was a brand new player. And like, why not exchange $20 of gems for gold and buy full exotics just to get you started? Like, why would you not do that? At launch, that didn't work because $20 of gems was like 10 silver. Like, but now it's enough gold that you could at least full deck yourself out in exotic berserker gear or whatever. And why wouldn't you do that? And it just, the good part of that is, you don't have to run Citadel of Flame path 1 endlessly to gear, and you can go right into the end game. But then, like, for a lot of players, like, there is no other end. Like, they don't, like, what do you do once you have the set? Like, they don't know what to do.
And this is the problem. Okay, other games get you to, through reward structures, they get you to engage with all the forms of different content by saying, oh yeah, now you've got this, now you start working towards this. Whereas because Guild Wars 2, like specifically the Ascended tier, is so spread out. Oh, living world for trinkets. Oh, you go like try and like brute force your way through fractals, like, which is one of the weirdest designs of it all. And then raids kind of being fairly iffy, like the average player thinking that, oh, I need to have full Ascended to do raids. When you don't, and raids being one of the most efficient ways of getting Ascended gear on a new account, it's it's really bad, because basically the reward structure is so unclear and so all over the place that you're not directed into this content at all. And that, I believe, is ultimately why engagement for like the fractal CMs for raid content, etc., is lower, because ultimately people aren't even aware that this stuff exists, like Teapot is suggesting with content guides. But secondly, you're not directed into it as the way to obtain this gear, and that's a problem. And that's why I do kind of, going all the way back, like probably about 30 minutes at this stage, I do say that the reward systems in Guild Wars 2 are the primary reason why Guild Wars 2 is kind of struggling to retain players, because there's no progression for people. They don't see it, even though it kind of is there.
So what does the implementation for this fix look like? Do you need to have like a massive sirens blowing collection that is like permanently fixed there, that's going to like guide you through the new content? Is that the kind of thing that we need? Or rather, not necessarily new content, but like a proper, right, this is going to be a mission. It's going to be here. It's going to be in the top right-hand corner of the screen until you've done it. Because, look, this is something that, guys, I cannot believe this, guys. This is something that you hear a lot from the Snake. There's a Snake. He's like, when I play a mobile game, when he's taking a shit, right, he loads up the game and like the screen is like glowing and he taps on it, right? Okay, I mean, that's what Guild Wars 2 doesn't do. And this is the thing. I hate saying this so much, Angels, because this is what I like about Guild Wars 2. I love that it doesn't tell you to do this.
The funny thing is that it doesn't actually take away from you not have, like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to.
I don't know. I view it as bad design. Like, I view it as bad design to kind of like have this like railroad thing, right? I just really dislike it. But
the problem is, Teapot, is that you see it as bad design because you want everyone to be like you. And the reality is that not everyone is as intelligent as you or as open-minded as you.
Thank you. Okay? Goodness me. This is a that's a good opinion right there. Okay.
I mean, it's the truth, right? It's the truth. Like, nor does anyone really like try or care about putting in the time, unless you say, oh yeah, this is how you progress, this is how you go from
like there's this whole thing goes super deep. Like, I don't know how deep you want to get from like a cultural and societal like stance on it all, but like it's just like most people don't want to think. They just want to like log in and like ooga booga smash buttons and like get shiny.
Like, honestly, if they wanted to redesign like the end game, like the second you hit 80, a portal would open up and you'd walk through the portal. There would be like a room with like 3 portals in that, and one of them is PvP, one is World v World, and one is like Dungeons and Fractals, and it's like a lobby that takes you there, and there's like a big sign that says, "Welcome to the end game," and you click on a portal and it like gives you like a little readout of like, okay, what is World v World? Okay, what is PvP? What is raids and fractal? And like it actually like it just makes it so easy to figure out what to do. And it would tell you, and that people couldn't possibly miss it.
The sad thing is, okay, in all of this, is that games like WoW don't have to do this. Because fundamentally, when you think about WoW, you think, oh, the end game is raids. Okay, that's the first thought you have, right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna go play WoW so I can go do mythic raids eventually. And the problem is, Guild Wars 2, when people think of it, they think of casual content. Like, for people who think about Guild Wars 2, they think about the casual content as the end game, and there is nothing, and therefore when people engage with it, there's no people don't ever go beyond that. There's a perception problem, and perception is so important in all of this. What is that?
Well, I agree with that, but they also do this. I would actually argue that, like, I mean, for example, you can't even do certain tiers of content in WoW until you've obtained a certain item level, right? Like, well, I mean, that's because it has vertical progression, I guess, right? Because it can, otherwise you literally can't do it. But there is this in these other games as well. And I mean, look, I think Final Fantasy would actually be like the biggest and best example of this, because unless you pay money to like skip all the story, it makes you play through like everything linearly. Like you have to do this, then this, then this, then this, then this, and this, and this, all the way through. And that's a very popular design, right? I think they do that also because of the narrative cohesion. It makes it, the narrative makes sense because it's a very story-driven game there as well. But I think there is something to be said for actually having this very streamlined design, because it really makes players get the point, right? Like the issue with Guild Wars 2 is that people don't get the point, as you quite correctly say. And I almost feel like the reason people think of Guild Wars 2 as casual content is actually because of a misapprehension, right? Like people think that way because they don't know, right? They don't have the critical information.
It's the perception is so important for all of this stuff. And that is why ArenaNet needs to have that more streamlined design. That's not to say, oh, you can't go and do world exploration if you don't want to. It's just that you have to kind of develop these systems a lot. And not just at the high end to keep people like the high tier players engaged, but also all the way through from day zero all the way through to veteran status, I guess. If you're not doing that, then that's why people don't stick around, because they don't know that content exists. They don't give it a try because they don't feel confident. I mean,
well, then there's just like the mentality that people have where they don't even know why you would want to do fractals because they already bought their legendary from the gem store. So
hell yeah.
Like the people that like there's like literally people that like leave comments on my YouTube videos that are like, I already got the legendary that I wanted, so why would I keep playing? And like, because that was the end game for them, was like getting eternity, and then they were done after. So,
and that's
they like I don't think you could do anything for a player like that. There's almost nothing you could do. I mean, for people that's their idea of success or end game. Like,
I think
you have to let them go.
I think that's just kind of like, I don't know. I think that's kind of sad to me, because my end game is like, this is like right here. This is literally my end game. Like talking with friends that like I've known forever. Like Nike and I went from like at the beginning of knowing him thinking he was a complete idiot and a poser for saying that raw tokens were too valuable to use, to us being like good friends, and then him giving me fitness advice, and then to me hating him, and now we're just like old and salty and we like each other again. And like
and raw tokens are still too valuable to use.
Okay, fair enough. But like this is like what, like Guild Wars 2, like it's inconsequential for me to like log in and really play it anymore, because like it gives me this experience. Like fucking like if there's like a legendary that's like grind Draconis Mons for this fucking trinket, like I will not do it. I don't care. I don't want to grind Draconis Mons. I want to log in and like raid and talk with people. Like that's the end game that I care about in Guild Wars 2. I don't fucking care about shiny shit. And if there is something shiny that I want and I can't just buy it, I just won't get it because I don't care. But like, I think we all of us in here probably enjoy the social aspect of it as much or more than just like being good at the game. Because like Angeels, like you said, like you hate the game and it doesn't engage you, and you think all of the design and rewards are all terrible, but like we're hanging out right now talking about it. We got people watching it. Like that's
what I would say to that, to directly respond, is the fact that I definitely have not been. I mean, I don't hate the game. I very much enjoy the game. I just don't play it as much because I enjoy it less, and I would rather play other stuff.
Fair, yeah, same.
But like my point is that I would, if I had the opportunity to say grind out Vision again, which I loved, I really enjoyed that, then I 100% would take that, over probably the social experience. because for me, stuff like that is why I want to play games. So yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, address that a bit there.
Yeah, like there's like someone just said it in chat too. There's just a difference between like what I want in the game and what a lot of other people want in the game. And like I stopped enjoying the game for a while, so like I got a camera and like I went outside and I started taking pictures and shit. And like I like this more than Guild Wars 2 right now. And like, well, I like fucking doing map completion and like AC kill every mob with level 30s. Like that's fun right now for me. So I guess I've just become casual.
The interesting thing is like just the business model of MMOs more so than other games. They have to cast a super wide net, and they have to be all things to all people, or else they're not economically viable.
Yeah. And
what ends up happening is either you have the budget to pull that off, or you just underserve every single person. And the people that stick with it, they all have their own reasons for sticking with it, but none of them are like over enthusiastically happy about it. Like they're not like over the moon with it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I want to steer it back to the implementation here, actually, for all this, because we're describing the problem. We absolutely are, and I think we all agree on that. And actually, just a quick note: thanks, Mela, to the raid for the Raid League, for all those guys coming over there from the Raid League stream. I'm actually going to be talking about
I
raid
hate raids and elitists.
Wow, dude, seriously, like they really are the worst.
Fuck
like
raids.
ban them all. Yeah, we're going to be talking about the raid tournament, the hard stuck raiding party, which will be coming back very, very soon. Coming soon, my friends. We'll be talking about that just after this podcast, so stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. Things are about to get very, very exciting in the raid scene. But I want to talk implementation here because, listen, okay, we're talking about problems. I want to talk solutions. Right, Angeels. We've got the problem. Yeah. People don't know what the hell's going on. They're flailing around like little peepos. Then they rage quit the game and they go and cry on another game subreddit about how Guild Wars 2 has nothing but casual, noob, fashion, dress-up content. Okay? What should ArenaNet do in End of Dragons? Like, what is a feature or like UI system they could implement that would actually fix this issue?
People are gonna hate me saying this.
Wait, you're not gonna say vertical progression, are you?
I am gonna say vertical progression.
Oh, that actually might. That is not just that is like center of the fucking sun take, dude. Okay, like that.
Yeah. No, the progression's gonna be unlocking your heroes and dressing them up.
TeaTime and I have had this discussion before, so he knows exactly what I was gonna say. The reality is, is that you need to give people the carrot on the stick, and there is no carrot on the stick in Guild Wars 2. I don't think any other MMO in existence will ever not go for vertical progression ever again, because simply it just doesn't work as a system in the long term. And Guild Wars 2 is absolutely evidence of this. Eventually, people will get bored of the vertical progression because it adds nothing, it brings nothing to the table.
I think Armory will help. I think Armory will extend the life of
Armory.
The Legendary Armory.
I mean,
it'll encourage everyone to get at least like
It will encourage everyone to get a credit card.
Yeah, sure, but nonetheless, no matter how it's monetized, like if there's like, I mean, I have like a legendary of everything except like some of the trinkets I'm missing, but like it would definitely push me to get like the remaining trinkets I don't have, like, and the runes and the sigils. Like that's totally a progression path that's gonna open up horizontally. That'll take a long time for most players.
But this is actually another problem. Legendary is probably one of the worst decisions they ever made, because expansion comes out, you've got full legendary runes. You now have every new rune that's added to the game ever, every new gear set,
yes,
every new sigil.
Yes, it's so good.
I would have designed the legendary runes as like a rune library, so like you get them in game, however you get them, and then add them to your library. Like that would have been. I
would have done the same, but you don't know that. Oh, I do know that, Shoe Sword. because I have legendary sigils and runes, and you have every single one added to the game.
No, that is just to clarify. That is 99% certain how it will work.
You can get your destroyer stats in PvE in World v World
when
the X pack comes out. Just wait. Like that's a selling point.
I mean, look, there will be new stats, and that's definitely like a really big selling point.
The number one stat people want. Like,
there's a better solution to legendary than all of that.
But actually, I apologize, but I just want to get in there. I want to like butt heads with Angels here a little bit here, real quick. Let's go to Ram Ranch. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah, well, all wrong is the thing.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about legendary gear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it not okay for legendary gear to be the ultimate form of progression in the game for basically every player?
Yes and no.
Because you go ahead.
As a concept, it is beautiful, right? Like the idea that eventually you are going to have the Omni gear, the best possible gear ever. Okay, you are going to be able to like swap anytime you want, have any sigil you want, any rune you want, any weapon you want at any time. Okay, and I mean that with like armory, of course. And you know, as a player, like that's very appealing to me. You know, that's why I went and got full legendary, because it's like nice, like. You know, I love the idea that I can just run around and swap whenever I want. You know, I never have to pay gold for runes and sigils ever again. I never have to earn them ever again.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this is the problem, there's that thing, I never have to earn them ever again.
Well,
you know,
I agree with that.
That means that every single reward space that comes with the expansion is completely eliminated. Okay? If ArenaNet comes out with a load of new sigils and new gear stat that is, you know, they came out with obviously Harriers, which was a bit cancer to get on POF release. But let's say they came out with a new gear set and gear stat type, and it was actually quite reasonable to earn. But there's no reason for me to ever go do that, is there? Especially if it's account bound. I mean, if I can sell it, then I mean, sure.
That's definitely a problem for you personally. But
yes,
that's
of course.
Like 5 players.
Yes, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. That is definitely an issue purely for someone like me, and like a player like me is incredibly rare. I will hold my hands up and fully admit that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm wrong on this.
Well, I just don't think this. I feel like this applies to no one. Like the average player is going to take like literally a year to get a legendary. Like even more than that. I mean, there's a post on the subreddit about how I think someone was making Chuka and Chompwort for 3 years. Because this kind of goes back into the thing you were talking about earlier, Angels, about how people don't know how to make gold. A legendary weapon will cost you what, 2,000 gold-ish, maybe a little bit more than that. Your average player is making, you know, 5 to 10 gold an hour, just, you know, chilling out, doing some random content and pressing their buttons. So that means it takes them like 300 hours, okay, or more, 300, 400 hours to actually get to that legendary weapon. The amount of people who are actually going to feel restricted by this and not have to craft the new stat types and buy the new runes by doing the new content. It's like Doroya, right? Like it's just him. I
mean, this is the thing. I don't think either side is wrong. Like I fully understand it. Like for the this is why I said yes and no to the is legendary armor and gear set the way it is a problem? And the answer is yes and no, because for a player like me, yes, it's a problem. For the average player, no, that's okay. You know, I don't. It's you're never going to be able to appease everyone, and I'm fully aware of that. But I think it's also important that like someone like me, who it has very much reached the end of the game in terms of progression, does actually say this stuff, because I would like to see more progression added to the game for players like me. And if I don't say that, then it will never happen, right?
Well, what if there was a different approach with regards to more convenience zones? What if they brought in more grinds for convenience?
It's funny because I think convenience is actually, again, one of the worst mistakes that ArenaNet made. I think that actually okay, so this is going to sound really weird, okay, and a lot of people are going to disagree with me again on this, but like I've thought about this a lot. The reality is that by having a bit of inconvenience, you work harder for something, and then you feel like you've accomplished more when you actually achieve it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, most of the convenience items are like salvage-o-matics and like armor repair canisters. Like, there was no dopamine hit for repairing your armor, like having to go back to a town to do that.
The fact that you had to go and do that stuff increased the amount of time and effort that you went and put into it, and that ultimately adds up. So yeah, it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one to kind of maintain that balance, and I think that ArenaNet has really gone way too far on a lot of this stuff.
Do you think it's possible for a game to even deliver this amount of progression though? Because eventually you'll finish RuneScape, it'll be over. Like, outside of insane grinds.
I'm probably about 2 years off, I would say.
And
having played for 7 years.
Yeah. But like the game will eventually be over. And yeah, there's obviously, I guess, longer term stuff in RuneScape than say Guild Wars 2. But I just don't really see I like the way I see it is there's just no way you're gonna play a game for like 7 to 8 years unless you actually like the gameplay. I think at some point you have to stop playing for rewards because, you know, eventually, you know, the happy button, it keeps pressing the happy button, but eventually it doesn't work anymore. Like surely at some point you've got to say, I just like the game. I just like the stock, guys, right? You know, I just like it.
You get into the game because you enjoy the gameplay. Okay, I think there's a lot of people who got into Guild Wars 2 because they enjoyed the gameplay, right? But they also left it, even though they enjoyed the game. I mean, think how many people, like Helzeth, for instance, okay? He says he enjoys the gameplay, but he's not going to come back until certain things change.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't that a great example though? Helzeth doesn't give a shit about rewards. He only cares about gameplay. The reason he quit was because
he wants to feel rewarded for his gameplay.
Well, yeah, but that's not. But that is that. Oh, dude, like, listen, Mr. Rhetoric here. No.
It's the exact same thing.
It's not. It's not the same thing at all.
No. It is the exact same thing because this entire time, and you're going to say I'm moving the goalpost, but the entire time I've been saying that it's all about people feeling good and achieving something. Okay, achieving something. That's what I've maintained.
I think this is a completely different thing, though. Like, a player like Helzeth quits the game because he doesn't feel like his skill is being rewarded in the game, right? By the gameplay. Basically, the actual game spitting that out directly. Those two things are completely different. Like, having progression, feeling rewarded for progressing is completely separate from being rewarded for putting in skill, like being good at the game and actually having your good gameplay being like, directly rewarded by the result you get in the game.
We clearly have different definitions of gameplay here, okay? So when I say gameplay, I mean, you know, you actually enjoy playing the game, right? You know, like the combat system or whatever. I would argue that Helzeth's experience is not necessarily the issue with the combat system. It's the issue with the fact that he's not feeling rewarded for the amount of effort he's put in, which isn't necessarily about the gameplay. It's about the problems with the balance and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
sure, that's like a systemic issue, though. Like, I feel like the players that you're saying quit because they like, they like the gameplay, then they eventually quit, is because the gameplay has essentially deteriorated or it hasn't changed enough to keep them sufficiently interested. Which is, I agree, is in itself rewarding, but I think this is a very, very separate issue to the topic of progression. I don't think this is necessarily about progression and like actual rewards. We're talking about the gameplay itself being rewarding, which, in my opinion, it's funny enough. Like, this is something that I would say. I think that a really big problem I have with open world is that, yeah, the gameplay isn't rewarding. Like, what you do is irrelevant. It doesn't matter, and you get the same thing either way, right? And it doesn't feel like you're really accomplishing anything within the game. I completely agree with this. Like, this is one of my main shticks here. But I think this is a completely separate issue to the topic of basically like the game, giving you basically, numbers increasing over time as a result of progression. I think those two things are completely separate.
I don't think they are separate at all.
They're the same. It pushes the same button to an extent, but it's like very different methods of doing it, in my opinion.
Yes, and I think that's okay. I think it's perfectly okay to explore different methods of, and I've kind of said this. Like, I think it's perfectly okay to explore different ways of pushing the buttons. Like, you want to keep people in game. Ultimately, you want to reward people. Like, it's just, if you're not, then it's not. Then people aren't going to stick around. Like, it does. Like, the issue is that at no point do people really feel rewarded for their time in Guild Wars 2.
Well, I mean,
never. You do some. I mean,
sometimes, like you said, sometimes, right? That was
your. I mean, I have fun when I play, and sometimes I have a lot of fun, and sometimes I don't have fun, and I go play something else. Like, so, like, I don't know. It's not necessarily even about, like Brazil said, it's not even about the rewards at this point for players like me. Like, whether I have fun is if something interesting happens, or if I have an interesting conversation with somebody while I'm playing.
Yeah, or when they start talking about
like
world events and map chat. That's fun. That's good content.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I like go back to legendary armor? For
I wanted to bring you back in, but like me and Angels just started going crazy. Debate God feels good. Debate tea time, guys. 100 rap jams, and I bring back the debate arc, by the way. But anyway, yeah, go ahead, Brazil. Let's go.
Well, you're all just wrong about it.
Yep.
Okay.
So legendary armor, I think, is completely like. I would literally say, I truly believe in the little black heart that I have, that legendary armor, and honestly even legendary, less of an extent legendary weapons, but legendary armor is a completely useless reward, and it has absolutely no value other than showing people that you hate yourself, because literally the skins are all terrible. They're all bad. Like, it is as close
legendary armor part 4.
Like, honestly, like, some of the legendary weapon skins are good. Some of them like do cool stuff, but with armor and runes and sigils, you can just go buy them all. You get free ascended armor. Like, if you're like moderately good at like doing content in the game, like, you just get free stuff. Where they like really have a chance to redeem themselves on just legendaries in general is when the armory comes out. You get to do something in game and unlock access to the armory on a particular character. And like, once you've unlocked access to it or whatever, you get to buy more templates with real life money and gems, and you can do shit in it. But legendary armor should really, yes, I see that. Legendary armor should literally just be choose your own stat combination and like choose your own rune bonuses. Like, if I fucking want power ferocity gear for my power reaper, I should be able to make that stat combination if I have legendary armor. Like, fuck getting to like pick between
build your own celestial. That would be cool.
Yes, like, if
I had that suggestion a while ago, especially for runes too. Like, legendary runes should have been like, pick your main stat, pick your secondary stat, and then here's a pool of 6 bonuses, and you can pick from that pool.
Yeah, like, I want
anything you want. That would have been so cool.
That's what they should do. Like, if I want armor that's literally just power, like, I only want the power stat, I should be able to use legendary armor to have that. If I want armor that's 5 stats, like, fucking I want it. Like, just set them all, like, pick your stats, set them as primary or secondary or whatever, and just go. Like, that would give people a reason to do it. It would feel meaningful and it's completely unique. But just like having ascended armor with a shitty skin, like, what the fuck? That's insulting. And like, they also haven't, like, again, like I said, they haven't gone back and fixed it or done anything about it. Like, it's still like junk. Like, I'll use nicer language. Like, it's still very unpleasant to look at. But like, they could just make the armory so you can just fucking build your own gear, and it would be good. It would be good. It would be really good. It would actually be very good.
That would that not be a slight concern with balance?
No.
It would be great in World v World to have power and ferocity gear and just use intelligence sigils, so you always crit and you just fucking annihilate everyone with one shot on your Jedi.
That's what we need in Guild Wars.
That would be great.
Guild Wars 2 needs a little bit of chaos. ArenaNet, like, they're just
they do that.
Yeah, but we need like we need
flip the table level of balance where nothing is what it was before.
like we need the 4th Blue Eyes White Dragon. Like this is fucking like this.
The game's already impossible to balance, so
yeah.
they've already hit the point where they can't balance the game.
You say that, but CMC is doing a surprisingly
he's
good
deleting
job.
amulets at a record pace. Like that's not balanced. That's like Band-Aid.
I mean, yeah, it's a Band-Aid until they can do like design changes, right? I mean, I don't know. I think this TeaTime, obviously, I knew it was gonna be like a bit of a furnace fest, right? I definitely understand.
Hey, we're offering positive solutions here. Things we would like. Like I mean, not like just
they look okay. I'm gonna give you guys a spoiler alert here for the expansion. They will never do that.
Okay, I mean,
it's a mistake.
I mean,
delete more. I mean, when the expansion comes out and there's all new power creep, they're gonna have to delete even more amulets, to keep the game balanced.
This really does bamboozle me with stuff like the vertical progression, because I actually agree with you guys. I think that if they did add lots of vertical progression or some kind of like bonus to having legendaries, that might make the game more popular, but it would like make it more popular for like the wrong reason. It's because it would be like familiar and people would understand the concept, but it would be a worse game because of it. You know, like the game would be worse designed. Like I think vertical progression isn't good design. Like the way Guild Wars 2 has it is better, and I will always defend it like for this reason, like because it gives the player more agency. Like it allows the player to actually experience the gameplay. Like and again, I know that I have this like very, I suppose, like naive and idealistic view of games, but the way I view it is that the reason games are good is because they are enjoyable to experience the gameplay. And I think a lot of games and vertical progression basically puts barriers in front of you that says, okay, before you can have fun, do that, right? You need to do that before you can actually start playing the game. Guild Wars 2 doesn't do that. Guild Wars 2 says, you can just play the game. Go and play the video game now. Like, and the game is the game, and the reward is the game.
I hate this. I hate this so much. Everyone just immediately jumps on the idea that you have to get the gear before you can do the content. Okay, gear treadmill, exactly. It doesn't have to be like that, guys. Okay, it doesn't have to be like that. Anyone who's played RuneScape knows that you can go and like really, you'll be tough, admittedly. You can definitely go do bosses and stuff with lower level gear.
Yeah, but RuneScape sucks and it's dumb.
Okay.
It looks like a fucking TI calculator game. Why would I want to play RuneScape?
Okay, now hang on. Let's just go. Go, Angeels, go.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point is, though, okay, is that you don't have to have those barriers on the gear progression if you don't want to. You can absolutely kind of engage with the contents at lower levels if you want to be able to. It's easy to design for that.
I mean, you can, but you're and you could do raids with green gear in Guild Wars 2 if you wanted to as well, right? Like, if you really wanted to do that. But I think to a certain extent it is inevitable, because like most people aren't going to engage with the game in that way. That's just not how it's going to be. And the thing is, you're essentially saying, if to kind of get around this issue, you have to play deliberately badly, right? And I think that that's not good. Like, if it's going to be, if the game is saying that in order to like, if you want to go and do this right now, you have to play deliberately inefficiently, I think that's kind of a bit of an issue with the game. Like, I don't really see the problem with having... I just wish we could live in a reality, I guess. Okay, I just want the game... Why can't there be, like, a niche or a new paradigm in gaming, or maybe, like, a slightly bit of an older one, where people just play the game because they actually like the game, right? And the game itself is fun. Because I think, ultimately, I view reward-driven gameplay to be ultimately futile. I think eventually you will run out of stuff. It may take you 1 year, it may take you 5 years, it may take you 10 years, but eventually you will run out. You know, like, WoW is over at some point. Final Fantasy is over. They're actually having a big problem with this right now, by the way, guys. You know, remember all those guys who were like saying, Final Fantasy so
What do you mean all those guys? That was just Rocca.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there was actually a decent number of guys that left from Guild Wars 2. And a lot of players who play Guild Wars 2 and Final Fantasy as well. But, you know, if you look at these games, they're like, there's so much content. It's over. it's done, right? They finished the game. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. And that happens in Guild Wars 2 as well. But it doesn't happen as much because of the way Guild Wars 2 operates. Like, WoW is over at some point. RuneScape eventually is over. You know, like, you have got to the end. And if the only reason that you engage with the game is because the game continually progresses you and continually rewards you, then eventually you run out of stuff to do. I think the only way you can really enjoy any game long term is by actually enjoying the gameplay or enjoying the community, which is, in my opinion, that is what an MMO is. The reason I like MMOs, MMORPGs, is not because of progression. I think progression is kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like it's the character kind of like, oh, what am I doing today? Like, I'm doing this today because I want to do this, right? That's the point of progression. But enjoying the MMO and continually playing it is because, one, you actually like the game, and two, you like the people you're playing with. Right? I think that playing an MMO like solo or purely reward-driven is ultimately futile. It will ultimately kill your excitement and kill your enjoyment in the game. And I see a lot of people kind of fall into this trap, is that the second, you know, I mean, look, I
think there's enough horizontal progression in Guild Wars 2 to last the average player their entire career with the game. So it's just us as spoiled players who have 20,000 hours or more that are like, oh, we're out of things to do. We're out of rewards. The average player is not out of rewards, and they have plenty of things to do. And it's just like Teapot says, it's just a matter of whether or not they enjoy the gameplay and want to keep going for the rewards that they have left on their list. And if they don't enjoy the gameplay, then they're not going to finish the items on their list. And if they do enjoy it, they'll just keep checking them off as long as ArenaNet keeps the servers on. And that's perfectly fine.
You see, I 100% agree with you. For the average player, they have more than enough to do. I would say, though, that I think that list that you're referring to there, Nike, needs to be made more clear and probably needs to be linked up a bit more so that people know that the stuff on the list even exists. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier, right?
Yeah, and to go all the way back to the rewards, and we were talking about like how complicated they are, and like no one even knows what the rewards for DRMs are. Like if you just like ask someone, hey, what are the rewards for DRMs? Like people could barely give you some answer. Like it should be more focused. Like, and I hate to say it, but like it should be like, okay, well that's the gold thing. This is the materials thing. This is the T6 mats farm. Like farms should be a little bit more specific on what they give you. Like maybe like 80% of this one farm you get wood and 20% of something else. And like just enough so that it's just easy to identify what you're being rewarded with. And then you can go engage with that content if that's the like it just so and there should be redundancy. So it's like if you hate one piece of content, you're not forced to do it for that reward. You should have other options for that same type of reward. Yeah. But it should be more cut and dry. Instead of giving you a little bit of everything for everything, it should be very targeted on what the rewards are. And that's a way better system, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
I have something that I would like to add.
What have you got?
I think that, like, from the perspective of someone who literally, like, used to weigh over 400 pounds, and, like, my entire, like, day-to-day routine was waking up and playing Guild Wars 2, so, like, I wouldn't have to think about how I just wanted to die, and, like, the video game was a distraction from that. Like, I think it's a wonderful thing that people can move on from a video game and just not play it anymore. Like if it's because like the fucking like rewards are too shit or like whatever, like being able to just like go outside and just like enjoy life or whatever, because it's a fucking video game. Like holy shit, like who gives a fuck?
Yeah, we're a bunch of sad fucks here.
Honest to God, like
I think that comes though from personal development as opposed to games not doing stuff. But
yeah, I know, but it's just like this, like for me, like
fair enough.
It's something that just like it hits me a bit differently. Just like you feel like you're unchallenged and you're unique in that way. Like you're the only person that plays Guild Wars 2 that feels that everything in the game is unchallenging, and so you don't like it, and that's why you play RuneScape. Maybe I'm just unique in that I think it's good that people can just like.
No, I don't disagree.
I'm just giving you some.
No, I think it's actually it's a fair thing to kind of to bring up. For me in general as a person, I struggle to find most things challenging, as kind of like egotistical or whatever that sounds. I'm constantly looking for challenges in my life in general. So it for me, wanting a challenge in a game that I play and I like. I think, I'm not whining about the lack of it, because when I was like, okay, kind of not finding this anymore, I just walked away. I was just like, okay, I'm going to go do other stuff for the time being. I'm here talking about this now because it's what I would love to see in the game, and I think these are my personal viewpoints on a podcast talking about our beliefs in this game. So I think I think there's certainly a misinterpretation of kind of about maybe my perspective of things. I'm fully aware that I'm not the target audience, and certainly it's unfeasible to kind of add a load of stuff. But I think it's important to mention this stuff because even if like a dev at ArenaNet is kind of listening and said, "Here's this."
They tuned out a while ago.
Oh yeah, I mean probably, but like even if they hear oh, this player who is at the very top, who's kind of achieved everything and all that sort of stuff, he wants something that challenges and rewards him a bit more for his time. And even if they go half the distance and someone else benefits from that as a consequence, I think that's a good thing. I think it's important to kind of actually have the extremes, but like in a constructive manner, in these kinds of discussions being present. And Teapot certainly knew that I was coming into this discussion with that thought process.
Yeah, it's an important thought process because I think it's a thought process that is mirrored by a lot of the MMO community. So that's why we got to have it here, right? That's why we got to get the debates going there as well. It's good stuff, indeed. But did we? This got so wild and so insane, and we probably should wrap it up at some point in the near future. But did we ever come to a consensus on what ArenaNet should actually do with this stuff? Because we
replace the regular story with a better version of DRMs, like an ultra refined, superior, iterated upon version of DRMs, and make sure that the EOD story is that and not the old story that no one liked.
Okay. And then on the reward topic there as well. So there's DRMs, that's solved. We just basically refine them and keep going in the right direction. And then with the reward structure and getting players accustomed to what they're supposed to be doing in the game, like what do we actually want to see change? And by the way, they aren't going to, as interesting as it would be to come up with really broken stuff with like legendary armor that you can put all the stats into power.
No, I mean,
unlikely. The crazy shit, it probably isn't going to happen. Within the current context of the game, what systematically needs to change in order to do that? Like, is it just more of like a more aggressive tutorial? Because actually, dude, like I've recently been looking at the tutorial achievements. They're actually kind of interesting, actually. Just saying.
Easy. This is so easy. This is so incredibly easy. They should fucking like make a pre-roll ad for YouTube, or like make an advertisement, or like tell people about the game, because like they don't do that. There's no marketing. They like the last thing I saw like marketing for Guild Wars 2 was the like Steam trailer where like a dragon chased someone over a ledge and then everyone had a glowy weapon. That's all I remember from it. Like, what if what if there was like a presence, and what if there was marketing, and what if they like told people about the shit that there was in the game, because there's a lot of cool shit in the game. Like, you could do stuff. Like, we don't need South Sun taxi cabs. Like, fucking like get some like interns or something from college that are really creative and just want to go and just like turn them loose. Just say there are no rules. The only rules are no swear words. Just do it. Just make it. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, tell people about what is already there, and then when you get more people with more varied opinions that are also new and have big wide eyes, like, listen to feedback. Like, that's what you should just do. That's just what you should do.
Okay. But I mean, I want to go to Angeels here on like the whole like reward thing and the integration with getting new players into these structures. Like, what's the solution here?
I think Brazil is certainly right about perception. It's like we mentioned before, WoW and like perception that you'd go and play WoW for like mythic raids and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But like within the game itself, it's very important that the basic loot reward structure is changed and is moved away from salvaging being the key rewarding component, and more towards having some higher, like some nice RNG loot, as they've started to do with the DRMs. The volcanic weapon chests are a really good example. But making people aware and getting people excited about this stuff is super important. Chak Egg Sack is pretty much the only thing I would say that gets people really excited about the RNG. But that thing is like ultra rare and is fairly unobtainable. Precursors used to be this way, but because they've dropped so much in price, it's nowhere near the same level of excitement. They need to have something that is high on demand and gets people excited to get this as a drop. And it needs to be relatively obtainable through, I think at the end of like a DRM is probably at a good place for it, because it takes a bit of time to get there and roll in and loot. That's acceptable. And stuff like that is really, really nice. Stuff to work for in general is always good. Like I just saw in chat, Otter Infusion. It was a nice little bonus meme there as well. But what I would say with regards to getting people to have a bit more of like that taking place in that vertical progression. And to be clear, I mean vertical progression that already exists in game. They probably need to give people just like straight up point them in the direction of something like Raids of Fractals and saying, you know what, you've got exotic here now, you can go do this content right now. And get people started on, I don't know how they would implement it into game. This is the really difficult thing. If they wanted to, they could even put it in the story journal. I think that maybe that would be a really interesting way of doing it. They have you right now go and complete a DRM as part of a story mission. So would it be that unfeasible to kind of say, you know what, here's the Forsaken Thicket story arc and put it in the story journal. And then you go do the Forsaken Thicket story, and maybe they have like a couple of like memes outside the raid instance that get you set up and interested in what's going on, exploring a couple of areas, and kind of bring it all together in a way that people can easily engage with it. And that's the most important thing. Telling people that A, it's there, and B, getting them to engage with it. And then boom, you suddenly have more people engaging with the content and progressing. That's probably one of the best things they could do.
I mean, do you think there could be in a way that you have like the story journal, could there almost be like another UI tab there, which would be like the hero journal or something like that, and it would be a series of collections that you would go through or something like that?
Just make it even clearer. Make it just say end game journal.
Well, they got to bring the role play, right? You got to have like the RP, right?
No, you don't. The role play is why people aren't finding this shit. Like there already is the role play. Like you can explore the open world and happen upon the raid entrance and go, ooh, a red portal. What is that? I better go explore it with my friends and role play your way into the raid. That is already there. Like no one knows what a Forsaken Thicket is. Like you have to like beat people over the head. People are so dumb, like so dumb.
I mean,
like you cannot have anything that's a metaphor or anything like that. It has to be so straightforward and lead them there by the hand. And if the gameplay is good, they'll stay. And if the gameplay is not good, they won't. But you still got to lead them there by the hand, because they can't be trusted to find their way there by their own reading comprehension, which does not exist.
I mean, I agree with Nike, okay? But like the wording of it aside, Teapot, your idea of like a hero journal, like naming, of course, withheld, just brought up so many ideas for me. You have a nice little bit of background information about the raid, okay? And crazy concept, raid drop collection log, okay? Getting each of the weapons, and at the end of it, you get a nice colored title. Could you imagine that? There you go. There's your little bit of
like collect all the I think that would be fun. Yeah. Collect all the skins, collect all the drops. Okay. That could be pretty cool stuff.
Let's be clear. You have to get them as the drop, not as...
you can't buy them. Yeah, you actually got to drop it. Yeah.
Buying them is cringe. Okay.
True. Actually, true. True.
Yes, exactly. Collection logs. Collection logs. There we go. And get your colored titles as well. Golden. Yes.
Golden title. Well, I think I mean, I have a little bit of insight into this because I mean, look, I am the title. I'm the title dealer.
You and I both know that they don't like colored titles.
Yeah, like I actually, that really surprised me, Angeels. By the way, I actually thought that I kind of like the Extra Life blue title, but apparently everyone hated it, so there probably won't be any more. That really surprised me, actually. Wait, chat,
that's like
guys.
Low hanging fruit for horizontal progression.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I can't believe they wouldn't do it more.
I want to check this out, guys. Okay, like chat. Do you guys hate the blue title, or is it fine? Right? I'm just so curious if people hate it or not, because
the blue title.
I hate it because it's like a meaningless title. It's not a
exactly.
Like a stream or something.
But I would like a colored title for having killed every raid boss on CM.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're talking.
This is the crazy thing. Like, it would be so good, and it would be so easy to implement. Gold for best of the best. Gold for God of PvP or God of the Arena. Okay. Sorry.
No, I said hell yeah, like that's good.
Yeah, gold for like all raid CMs completed. Okay, and that's like a type, not necessarily the Demon's Demise or whatever the fuck they are, like the base ones. You have to have one for completing all of them. Gold for God of World v World, Fractal God, etc. And then have ones for all the collection logs as well. And at that point, that becomes really interesting. Really, really interesting. Because there's that like little form of like, I achieved this. I would love to work towards those. God of Feeding? Is that what you would go for, TeaTime?
Dude, that would be like the ultimate title. Like, I want to rep God of Feeding. Right?
And to answer the person in chat, yes, it has to be colored. Titles, okay, this is such because there are so many titles.
You could also they could have done capes with trims like in Guild Wars 1.
I mean, nah, Gem Store, dude. Gem Store.
Yeah.
Gem Store took that away from us.
Yeah, okay, I'm activating. I mean, dude, at this point, do we have to do it, guys? We're 3 hours into the podcast, but look, guys, we've kind of like we've had blue balls for a while, but some serious fucking blue balls.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Okay. Oh, dude, like the reward structure being compromised by MTX and the Gem Store. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. See, this is actually finally I can start now, guys. Okay, you're gonna be happy, right? You were wanting me to bash the game design. Here we go. I've got my fucking seal clubbing club out, dude. I'm about to like fucking destroy some stuff. Right.
I'm just gonna eat some noodles and I'm just gonna listen because this is gonna be great.
All right, but listen, this is actually a really, really sad thing. You know what would be great, guys? Okay, Soul River Glider for getting Eternal or something like that. But where is it? In the Gem Store, mini sloth, Slothosaur back piece, guys, for doing slippery slubbling in the Gem Store, right? Maybe there's a mini Sabbather, right, for doing Last Cannon in the Gem Store, right? It's all there. See, this would be a big issue. Yeah. Oh man, like I don't really want to go on this too hard actually. There's no debate, right? It's gonna be a circle jerk. It's gonna be a fucking group wank over here, boys. Seriously, unbelievable. We're definitely not doing that. But yeah, basically the Gem Store is annoying because it means that ArenaNet can't put good rewards in the game that people would actually care about and swag on in the same way they do in, say, like a Final Fantasy or Retail. Well, that's just, I don't know. There's no debate there, guys. There's like no point of contention. That's just true, right? I mean, like...
And that is why colored titles are important. Boom.
Yeah, because they haven't monetized colored titles yet.
True.
So the ground
they have.
fertile.
Like, literally the first title they did was monetized.
But but it's not like monetized the same way.
Okay, but yeah, no, and I'm not getting sucked into it. Like, I refuse, right, to get absorbed into that particular debate. But there you go. I think have we actually just about done that? Are we finished? I think we may well have actually done it. I think we may have completed the tea time there with like a quick little MTX rant at the end there, guys. Okay, damn, seriously, man. Listen, it's Todd Howard's is to blame for this, okay, with the fucking horse armor, man, okay? Get him out of here, right? Get him out of here. Get that horse armor out of here, dude, okay? Just get rid of it, and the loot boxes, too. But yeah, that rant It's over, guys. I'm cutting it short because, look, okay, you guys might enjoy it, but look, okay, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for my blood pressure. But yeah, that is about it. We have now fixed the game with our hero collection log. Only took us 3 hours to get here. So I'm just going to timestamp that, send it to ArenaNet, and boom, you guys will see it. End of Dragons. It's going to be there. There it is, guys. Yes, guys, we've come full circle. TeaTime is back. The debate arc is back. The snake
Angry
on
Zorik
TeaTime.
next week.
Oh,
Get ready.
yes. Angry Zorik on TeaTime. In fact, guys, not even TeaTime. Next Thursday, because it was on a Thursday. That was when the original debate was. On Thursday, guys, I'm just going to get the entire Guild Wars 2 community in Discord, and we're just going to have like a 5-hour shouting match. And right at the end, guys, okay, we add Grim, and Grim shuts it down, like drops the fucking mic, like just ends it, just like then, guys, okay? So, yeah, that about wraps up this TeaTime. Hey, as is the tradition, we might as well do a little bit of shilling here so the YouTube people know who to complain about and who to flame and where they can do it the best.
Oh, dude, people are going to hate me.
Dude, I'm ready. Oh, it's going to be so good.
Dude, I'm just ready for the YouTube comments.
Dude, like, okay. Angels, like, if it makes you feel any better, we're all fucked, okay? Like, all of us. I'm
going to be good.
I don't think I'm going to be fucked this time. I don't think I was very bad this time.
People will be like, normally I hate Nike and I wish he died, but in this case he was right. Like they'll have to preface their positive comment.
Is it okay if I now say that? Oh, I've been baiting the entire stream. Is that what I'm supposed to do?
That's good. But... That's good actually, because that means when there's like when there's a troll comment, you can just like link to this timestamp and then boom, you can like shut it down. But anyway, okay, then so let's go around. Let's go there in orders of gaming. Angels. Lead web developer for Hardstuck. When is your next quarterly stream? Like quarterly?
Next quarterly stream. Maybe that's the website reveal. We'll see. We'll see. I am just away from the game, I guess, Robert. I'm taking my own advice where I don't play the game because I'm not enjoying it as much right now and I'd rather do other things. And that's the smart thing to do. That's exactly what you should do if you're not enjoying yourself right now. I'm Angeels. I stream sometimes. Twitch.tv/Angeels with 2 E's. Follow, subscribe, gift 100 subs, 100 tier 3 subs, and boom,
nice.
We go.
Incredible. Okay, and then evading the wrath of the commenters with a beautiful background there, okay, with the gems, the end of dragons. It's Nike. What do you have to say for us? When are you streaming Guild Wars 2 again? When are you streaming
never,
the meta trains?
Guild Wars 2 is not a stream-friendly game. Too much downtime. You need to... The only way to be a successful Guild Wars 2 streamer is to have a big enough community that you can snap your fingers and make things happen, like Teapot or some others. Or you can be a PvPer where there's like no downtime essentially in the content. But if you're like a PvEer, like, and you don't have a big community behind you, like there's just nothing to stream. Like you could stream Pugs, but then like you go insane after 3 days and want to die. So probably not going to stream. I might stream like the End of Dragons launch just because that'll be like a big event. So we'll probably be there for that. But yeah, mostly my Guild Wars 2 stuff will be YouTube. So check that out.
Ooh.
And then my streams are going to be Zwift. Tour of Watopia is this month. So every Tuesday, and then maybe some other days, I'll be streaming stages of that. So you can check it out. It'll be super fun.
Okay. Right. And finally, the surprise guest. Okay, making the grand return to Guild Wars 2 recently. And unfortunately, guys, having some pretty severe connection issues. And, of course, clairvoyance into other people's gear. It is Brazil DNT.
Give me a second. Yes. I play on the EU servers now, and I'm in NA, but I do lag a lot because of that.
That is so unfortunate.
There was this one time I lagged so hard in Cold War that I was meleeing the helicopters out of the sky.
I hate when that happens.
Yeah. crazy. And sometimes I lag so hard other people's hero panels show up whenever I open mine. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a huge problem, ain't it? You've got to look into the servers. But yeah, so I actually don't really make any Guild Wars 2 content, and the Guild Wars 2 content that I did make, I've deleted like 4 times now. But I'm gonna do something a little crazy. I'm gonna dox myself.
Wait, hang on.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Hang on.
You can all, if you're interested in my photography and my pursuits outside of gaming, you can follow me there.
Oh, well, there you go.
This might be a little dangerous, but this is IRL Brazil.
IRL Brazil is being unveiled at long last. Wait, here it comes. It's about to activate. I'm not really sure what to expect here. Will it be the Twitter account? Oh, there it is. Yeah, it is there. Okay. The Twitter account and the Instagram have been unleashed. You definitely check that out there as well to investigate all that stuff.
Give me a tweet. Give me a tweet.
A little bit of a tweet situation going on there.
If you're a hater, come over and tell me that all of my shit is still bad. I would really love that.
Okay. Good stuff. We really, really like to hear it indeed. You know, that is good stuff. And hey, you never know. We might see, and Legendary Armory will be coming out with the expansion. So we may be seeing, wait, would it be part 5 at that point, I believe? Because you did part 4, right? So it's part 5, right?
I deleted part 4 already. It didn't.
Yeah.
If there's a part 5 ever, like, fuck, I don't know. Like, maybe I just, like, upload a video in a Google Drive somewhere and post it on Reddit, but I don't really want to, I don't really want to make any Guild Wars 2 content. The more I go out and the more awful things that I see, like, the more it's just like I should be doing shit in real life, and I should try to, like, help people in real life, like helping people get good at a video game, like, whatever. There are people that can't eat, and I would rather help them. So that's what I've been doing.
My goodness.
Nope.
Puts things in perspective.
I'm reformed. I'm a changed man.
Well, reformed Brazil.
When did you open your heart to Jesus?
I actually got into a tiff with someone over Jesus the other day.
Those atheists, you have to debate them at any
I'll have to tell you this after the stream because I really don't want to say it on stream, but you would approve of this so much.
Oh, wow.
It's freaking great. Yeah.
Okay, then.
It's such a good comment.
Moving swiftly onwards then, of course, if you guys like content like this, if you guys like these tea times, then be sure to follow because I might get it going. And I actually really do enjoy podcasts and just discussions and chats about the game. So maybe I'll put in a little bit of effort, get a bit of elbow grease going on there and get a podcast going maybe once a week to talk about some of the happenings. Maybe once every 2 weeks or something like that. Just to not go too crazy. The world of Guild Wars 2 doesn't spin super fast. So I think maybe once a week's a bit on the overkill side. But we'll see. If you guys enjoyed this, make sure to leave a comment telling us how much you liked it, okay? Because otherwise, how can we possibly know? Like, we won't know otherwise, So yeah, follow, subscribe, right? Follow me on Twitter as well, guys. I know you have 5,000 Twitter followers, so that's famous, right? I'm nearly famous at this point.
On Twitter and then follow me as well.
Exactly. Might even rename the podcast to Hard Stuck Podcast instead for our glorious gaming organization, soon to take the internet by storm with hardstuck.gg. Go and look at our construction page there while you wait for it to be unveiled and your mind will be blown. But make sure you're sitting down, okay? Because look, it's going to be a big hit to your mentality when you see it. But anyway, yep, that's about it for the tea time. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, I'm actually going to continue the streaming here as well because I have to announce the raid tournament and talk about the raid tournament with all of the raid enthusiasts who came over from the raid league. So we'll be doing that right now. I'm going to be calling with Mela. We're going to be chatting about that and discussing some of that and just kind of getting people integrated into that and prepared mentally for what's to come. But, okay, YouTube, you guys don't see that. I'm just going to leave you teased there, but you'll see some of that soon as well on this channel as well in the upcoming future. Hopefully getting some teasers, little trailers for that sort of thing to keep you guys in the loop as well. But yes, until next time, thanks for watching, my friends, and I will see you all next time. Okay, and Brazil will see you in the mists.
In the mists.